Cash, dude, welcome to the show, man. I'm excited for this one. We didn't get a chance to meet each other first. It was like a last minute, like, hey, you want to come in and knock out an episode, and you're all for it. So give me a little intro about yourself, and we're just going to dive right in because after reading your bio, I'm excited for this one.
Hey, thanks for having me here, man.
Yeah.
I've never done one of these podcasts before, so we'll see how it goes.
We have a lot of newbies, a lot of first podcasters, so you'll be fine, man.
Yeah, hopefully I do justice to it, right?
Yep. Oh, I'm sure you will. Well, it'll be good. So give me a little backdrop about you.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in India. Grew up in a super small town in northwest India.
Okay.
Almost central, you can see it too, like close to Delhi,
Okay.
the capital. Didn't really grow up with a whole lot of money. If you were to Google, hey, Indian family and a scooter, that's kind of how I grew up, like 5 people on one little
So
scooter.
traditional of what we're seeing, you know.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, so you were living. So this is okay. I got a lot of questions already.
Yeah, I grew up in a house with 1 bedroom, so we all kind of like slept in 1 bedroom.
Okay, how many is all of us?
It was 5 of us. It was my dad, my mom, and then my sister, who's the oldest one, my brother, who's older than me, and then myself.
So you're the baby.
I was the baby who always got in trouble.
Yeah. All right. Usually the middle child syndrome. So.
No, I was the one that got forgotten about, right? Because you had the first girl, so that's my dad's favorite, obviously, right?
Uh-huh.
And then my brother, so he's my mom's favorite, and then it's me.
Then you're just left. Okay. And then growing up in a traditional Indian family.
Yeah.
So-
So we were raised Hindu, like family's Hindu, right?
Yep.
I don't know how much you know about the religion.
Not a super ton.
But yeah, it's the predominant religion in India.
Yep.
And that's kind of how I was raised. Religious growing up, but then right around 8th or 9th grade, kind of just fell off and
Okay.
like, you know what? I just believe in being a good person, and that's just how I'm going to be.
Yeah.
Instead of like following any religion. So that's kind of where I was at.
Cool. So growing up in India, I mean, 1 room with everybody. That's wild, man. I mean, but that's pretty tradition, isn't it?
Yeah,
for-
it's very common too, because
Common.
most people are like belong to the middle class or below, right? And that's pretty common.
Yeah.
We didn't really have a house that we bought until like I think I was in 10th or 11th grade when Dad finally bought a house. Bought his first car when I was in like 9th grade.
Really?
maybe
Everything's
before.
mopeds and motorcycles over there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So after growing up a little bit, you ended up obviously coming to the States.
I did, yeah.
What brought you here?
So, let's see, just to give a little bit of context. So, growing up, I was good at like school. School came easy to me up until like 9th or 10th grade, where I'm like, I want to go explore other things. So I started skipping school.
Okay.
Get into fights.
How did your okay? So as Indian parents, I have a couple buddies, and they're strict.
Yeah, they didn't know about that.
Really? So you were good at it.
Well, until I started becoming popular in the little town that I grew up in. And
For getting in trouble or what?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you started to build a name for yourself.
Yeah, unintentionally too. I just
Okay.
wanted to go have fun. And
What was the type of fun you were doing?
Girls, skipping school, getting into fights.
Okay.
Start smoking pretty early too, drinking a little bit.
Okay.
Went away from all that pretty quick too. It wasn't like any problem, but
Yeah.
I could see myself going down a bad path. And then my dad, like, we weren't rich, but he was very well connected because of the people he had helped. Like, there have been a couple of people that have gone down the wrong path, and nobody would work with them. And he's like, I'll work with you. So
What'd
he
your
gave
dad do?
He was a civil engineer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for the housing, it's like a state housing department.
Okay.
So they will develop houses and stuff and roads sometimes.
Got it.
So he got to know a lot of people, and then a lot of people knew him. And then I'm using his motorcycle.
In a small town.
Yeah.
Word gets back pretty
Yeah,
quick.
people are really good at like memorizing license plate numbers. You're like, oh, that's his motorcycle. Let's go find him.
Okay. Okay.
It's like, hey, what's your kid doing over here? He's supposed to be in school, isn't he?
Oh yeah. So they started just
So-
diming you out.
So yeah, exactly. I would come home and I'll see these suspicious eyes. I'm like, what's going on?
So they knew.
They knew.
And you knew instantly because it wasn't a normal look. I feel like all of us as kids, especially
Yeah.
mischief ones, when your parents know.
Oh, yeah.
You could just, oh shit, the gig's up.
Yep, exactly. So there was this big school in India called IIT. Think of it like MIT for America. Like that's kind of how the big institute that
Okay,
is. And you
okay.
have to take an exam for them to go make it into one of the 7 of their institutes.
Pretty tough exam.
It's a pretty tough exam, right? So my parents decided to send me to this coaching, which was actually very popular in the small town I grew up in, that people will come from all over the country to this little town to study for 2 years, and then it became 4 years just to take this one exam to get into this institute.
So when do you start studying for it? In high school, or do you graduate high school, study for 2 to 4
no,
years,
you're
then
doing
go?
it in high school.
So not only are you going to school, you're
Yeah.
studying for this exam
Yep.
for just the potential opportunity to get
Yep.
to apply to these
Yep.
these tech schools.
Yep, exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I feel like the Indian culture, I mean, it's you guys are very education driven.
Yeah, so you got to think about that, right? We got 1 billion people, right? Not a lot of resources. At least when I grew up, like sports wasn't really that big of a thing, especially in a small town where I grew up.
Yeah.
So intentionally, people are thinking, hey, if you don't study, you're not going to get a job. If you're not going to get a job, like you're never going to come out of poverty, right? So there's a lot of focus on study, right? So
Okay.
kids never get an opportunity to like explore other hobbies or sports at all.
Because they're just buried in the books.
Yeah.
How much
was
does
like
that cost?
school.
Like obviously you're in a school to study these things.
Yep.
I mean, you're paying. I mean, it's got to. I mean, so you.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I mean, is it just like a normal class you would compare it to here, is like a couple $100 a month, or is this like something that like people are capitalizing off of because everybody's trying to study to get into
People are
school?
definitely capitalizing on
Okay.
this. You can compare it to here, I would say, but it doesn't add up because like Indian economy and Indian
Yeah.
currency versus like here, right? So obviously it's cheaper compared to what people think here,
sure.
but if you go back, like people are putting away savings to send their kids to these
Okay,
schools,
that's
right?
that's what I'm at. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a huge expenditure that's coming out of pocket on top of like sending you to schools, because schools you have to pay for as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no public schools, like you're paying for everything.
So you're paying for public school technically.
Yeah.
And then your parents are saving for you to study for these tests.
Coaching, yeah.
The coaching classes,
Yeah.
and they're trying to put away for college.
College, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you
That's a
know,
lot.
I don't blame him for be like, hey, you're gonna study this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're paying for it.
But yeah, so I was supposed to go to the school in the morning, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to go to these coaching classes in the evening, and I just started skipping.
I don't blame you.
I just like
I
this
feel
is
it,
not
I
the
feel
path
it,
I
yeah.
want to. I very quickly knew like this is not what I want to do. Like I don't
Okay.
want to go to IIT. Like
Yeah.
this is not going to be my path. I want to do something else in life.
Is that kind of shunned upon
Oh, yeah.
in your town? So, like, it's expected?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a lot of eyes raised and a lot of complaints and like, hey, what is your son doing? Like he should be. And obviously, you know, when I finally took the test, I knew I wasn't gonna make it. And then,
You're like,
you know,
yep.
Dad is standing all over my shoulder when we were looking, you know, checking for our results. And I'm like, well, this is not gonna go well.
Yeah.
And we had to we didn't have computer or internet at home, so we had to like go to like a store where they have internet to go see it.
Okay. So then you feel the pressure of that.
Oh yeah, I'm in public, you know.
You're like, my dad's gonna whoop my ass right
Oh
here.
yeah, he came very close to it too. Like
Yeah.
you could just see he's holding it back because we were in a public place.
Yes.
My brother got it a lot though. Like
really?
when he would not do his homework, yeah, he got beat up.
No shit. It just still didn't stop you from skipping and everything.
Nope.
huh? I love it. It's just who we are, man.
Yeah.
It's that's one thing I'm learning as a dad. Whatever your kid's gonna choose, like,
That's what they're gonna do.
just embrace it.
Exactly.
Embrace it to a certain extent. But
Yeah.
I get it.
So, you know, yeah, I had that first time ever saw the look of disappointment in my dad's eye, and I was like, all right, that's not good.
Yeah.
So we come back home, and my mom kind of calms down. My dad's like, it's all right, he'll do it again. And then my dad's like, yeah, you're going to take the exam again. I'm like, no, I won't. And he's like, what? And I'm like, no, I won't.
No shit. Okay.
I'm like, Dad, I'm sorry, but like, this is not for me. Like, I need to do something else.
Yeah.
So as this was going on, I found out there was this college close to Delhi that had programs from universities in America.
Okay.
And the way they were based is you do 2 years in India to save on costs because your living expense and college
Yeah.
fees are not as much, right? And they're essentially running the program from the university there.
So you're learning U.S. University
Yep,
in
the whole
India.
curriculum is coming from them.
Okay.
You know,
You're
it's
saving the tuition,
the living expense for 2
Got
years
it,
and
okay.
everything, right? And then you do the last year in America.
Oh, and that's what brought you here.
Yeah, so that was the plan. I was like, Dad, that's what I want to go do.
So what do they do with your visas? Is it considered like a work
It's
visa?
a student visa.
Student visa,
So I
okay.
think it's called F1.
Okay.
if I'm correct.
So you,
No, it's
that's
been a long
probably pretty
time.
exciting, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
So what did your parents think of this? You
Me
going to
being-
the school instead of the one that they wanted.
So
you
my it was a hesitation at first.
Okay.
But thankfully there was another kid from the same little town of mine that
Okay.
was a year ahead of me doing that. So I used that. I'm like, hey, he's doing it. You know his parents, and
Go talk
you
to
know
him.
exactly. Why won't you let me do it?
Yeah.
So they kind of got. I was able to convince them to go. And then my sister helped too. Like I think she saw it too. I knew if I stayed in that town another year, like I will just go off the rail and I'm gonna do
Okay.
something bad.
Okay.
Like I didn't need to be in there and
What's
start.
what's the drug use like there? I mean, you guys, I don't like it's fascinating to me. Like we battle. So I mean, obviously you've been
Yeah.
here long enough. You see our fentanyl problems, the
Right.
opiate problems, and all that. Like, what's over
So
there? Like,
weed is big, right?
Okay.
And then the other one is they call it sulfa. It's actually from like a plant that looks like cactus.
okay,
It's like a little black ball, and they will just crush it, mix it with their cigarette, and smoke it.
and that's it, huh?
I've never done it.
Right. Well, the only reason I ask is because I guess everything is just so abundant here, and we go,
Yeah.
it's just, and then you talk to these other countries, they're like we don't have any issues like this, or they have a completely different problem that they're dealing
And
with.
I'm sure there's other things that
Yeah.
people do. They're just drugs are not all that prominent.
Got it.
Yeah, which is
'Cause that's where my mind goes when you're like skipping school, getting in trouble. I mean, it seemed like it's like the common occurrence here.
yeah. It was really frowned upon where
Yeah.
I come
Got
from.
it.
You know.
Oh yeah, for sure. So you end up coming to the States. Where did you go?
Yeah, so so do my 2 years there, come here to States. I had actually no clue where I was going in America. I hadn't even looked at the map. I was so excited to just get out, and
Okay.
because I just wanted to do things on my own, right? I'm just like, get me out of here. I don't want your name. I don't want anything else. I'm gonna try to build something on my own.
Gotta spread the wings, man.
Yeah, so I move out here, and in my head, I'm expecting New York or California, because that's all I've seen in movies, right?
Isn't that hilarious?
And you just think all of America looks like that, right?
Okay.
So I land in Fargo, North Dakota.
No.
Yeah.
From India to Fargo.
North
What time of
Dakota.
year?
It was right about August.
Oh, okay. So you're dealing with some humidity and heat. I mean,
Yeah,
was it?
It's starting to get cold. It was a little chilly.
Was
Yeah.
it already in August? Okay, yeah, because Fargo's a frozen just tundra.
Yeah,
up there.
and I didn't know what was coming either, so.
You didn't have any gear, nothing.
Nope, nothing. So yeah, I landed.
How the hell did you end up in Fargo?
So there was only like 4 universities that
Okay.
had this program.
Okay.
And I just went in and I took in computer science just because, I'm
Yeah.
Indian.
Yeah.
But funny thing was that wasn't what I actually came to NDSU with, because I ran into a couple of complications.
Okay.
Got in a fight in college, got suspended for a whole semester
Over there?
in India.
Okay.
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
What'd you get in the fight over?
Somebody said they were gonna beat up my buddy, so we were just like, all right, man, let's go.
Were you stocky then, or did you put all the weight on in like military time?
I put on all the muscles and stuff before military, but like in U.S., because in
Okay,
India
yeah.
I was just like, I've never yet had meat.
Got it. Yeah, right.
I never worked out. I didn't work out until I was like 23,
Okay.
probably. Yeah.
So you get in a fight and you get suspended. So
Yeah, this guy was like blue by the time we got done with it, so
Okay.
that was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that I wanted to stay away from. Like, why am I doing this, right?
Mhm.
As you grow up, you realize that was just stupid.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
But yeah, we got 4 or 5 of us got suspended for a whole semester, and then when we came back, they essentially tried to kick us out of the school. So they said, you have 2 options. You can either resign and like get out of the school, or you can take the exams now for the semester that we made you skip. It's like, what? Like,
Really?
yeah, you can take the finals, and if you've passed the finals, we'll let you in, or you can just leave now. Like, so they were just trying for us to leave. Like, how are you supposed to pass an exam when I haven't gone through the whole semester?
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, I'll play your game. Let's go. I'll take exams. And then there was the Java course for like, coding and stuff. And I knew I wasn't going to pass that because I don't know how to code.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Dean's office right before, like the day before I was supposed to take that exam. And that was the only one I had left. And I'm like, I want to drop the course. I'm still allowed to drop a course. And he goes like, you can't drop the course. I'm like, why not? He's like, oh, it's a core course. I'm like, well, then I'm going to change my major.
No kidding. Really? So you played their game?
Oh, I was like, yeah, we'll play this all day. I'll change my major. Then I was like, well, you can't do that. I'm like, where does it say that? I can't change my major.
Good for you.
So he's like, well, what major do you want? I'm like, whichever one doesn't have Java as a core subject. So you're going to let me drop it? So the day before that exam,
No kidding.
I dropped that course, changed my major, and the only university that was allowing electrical engineering was NDSU. So that's where I ended up.
Oh boy, you set yourself up, didn't you?
Yeah, I didn't know where I was
Oh
going,
my
what I was doing, but I was like, I'm not gonna get defeated at this game that you're trying to play with me.
And then you never thought like I should Google Fargo, North Dakota?
I don't think there were any better options.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're committed at this point. So you show up in Fargo.
Yeah, so
Have you ever seen the movie Fargo?
No.
Did you know there was a movie? Okay, there's a movie. Okay, you're gonna have to watch this one.
Yeah.
Anyways, so you show up in August in Fargo.
Yep.
Already starting to get cold.
Yep. So I'm standing. Oh man! All right, I'll share this in this podcast too. So people probably think this guy's like an idiot, but I'm standing at the bus stop because I'm trying to go to school to get my ID card and stuff. Right, day
Okay.
one, and I'm like, man, what did I do to myself? Like, I should probably leave and go back.
Why were you having so much doubt, though? I mean, the American
Well,
dream, right? Like
well,
you're
yeah,
here.
but I didn't know, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know any better. I had just spent 2 years outside of Delhi, so I got used to the big city feeling,
Okay.
right? So
And
I was
now
like,
you're in
man, what am I
nowhere."
doing? This is not what I was promised.
This is not New York City.
Yeah. Little did I know I didn't want to live in New York and California
Hell
anyways,
no,
you know?
Hell no.
But I'm like, man, I'm going to leave. And then here comes this car, 8 a.m. in the morning, pulls from this side street onto the main street as I'm standing on the bus stop. Girl comes out of the back seat and just flashes me. And I'm like, America, I guess I'm staying.
No. This is your first
This
intro.
is my first day, yeah.
That is the most American shit ever.
Yeah, I was like,
Did she have like a rainbow or a American flag bikini on? Because
No, she was just wearing a T-shirt. She just lifted it up, came out of the window of the back seat. I was like, all right, I guess I'm staying.
Like, I love America.
This was 8 a.m. in the morning.
Oh shit, good
Yeah,
for her.
So I ended up staying.
Look at you now, huh? Who would have thought? So okay, so you decide to stay, and how
Yeah.
how was your first winter in Fargo?
It honestly wasn't too bad.
Okay.
I thought it was going to be bad, but I actually like colder weather, and I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
realize that up until I moved to America. It's like, yeah, I actually enjoy cold.
Because where you were at in India, you didn't have winters like that. I mean, obviously, I know up in the
Unless I
mountains.
go up in the mountains,
Yeah.
yeah. Where I grew up, not really.
Got it. So how long were you North Carolina? How long were you in
North Dakota, just about a year. You know,
Okay.
finished my degree, and then I moved out and moved to North Carolina.
That's a drastic change. Why
Yeah.
North Carolina?
So I got done doing my school,
Mm-hmm.
and then, you know, when I first moved to America, I'm just like, I want to see how much money I can make, because we didn't grow up with a lot of money,
Yeah.
right? So I was like, hey, that's the definition of success, and that's what I need to do. So I figured out, since I had a degree in electrical engineering, I started looking up jobs, and all these jobs needed like security clearance and stuff. Like, yeah, I'll probably never get these jobs, so I never even applied.
Yeah.
And somebody told me about, hey, consulting is a good gig you can get into. I'm like, all right, get me started, you know. So I started applying for jobs. First one happened to be in North Carolina, so I went straight there, start working.
Consulting for what?
So it was management consulting. So you're essentially doing project management, business analyst type work at that time, right?
Got it.
You're helping Fortune 50, Fortune 100 companies deliver on their programs. Like, some of them are IT, some of them are just digital.
And you enjoyed this?
No, I enjoyed the money.
Okay. So how long were you here? So you worked on a student visa, which was good for how long?
Yeah, so the student visa was good for 1 year until I was done. Actually, no, for 2 years.
Okay.
It was when my F1 was, I think, and you know, if I'm wrong, don't bite
Whatever.
me. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Then what happens is, since it was a STEM degree, it comes with OPT, occupational practical training or something like that.
Okay.
Essentially, that's your work permit after the degree.
Got it.
So you get that for a year, and then you have another year and a half, and then you have another year of extension on that. So I used all of that, and then I applied for my H1. So
Which
was
is your
also-
actual U.S. citizenship, correct?
No, that's the work visa,
Oh,
and
okay.
it has to be in your field of work,
Got it.
right? So it has to be sponsored by a company that has already exhausted resources to find a position, find someone in the country, a citizen, to fill that position. If that cannot be filled by them, then you can go get that position.
Okay.
So that's kind of how that process works.
Got it.
Which is all fair and stuff, but I think there's which is what I experienced firsthand too. Like, there's a lot of taken advantage of for the candidates that goes on in there, because companies know they will hold your sponsorship and visa, so they will nickel and dime you and not pay you anything at all.
Oh, so they're getting almost free labor.
Well, not almost free labor. They'll pay you, but like they can bill you to another company for an absurd amount of money and then give you like, here's your 50, 40
Because
bucks an
you
hour.
have to play their game because you're on a work visa.
You can't really do anything about your immigration. They have to do it.
No kidding.
Yeah. So
And this is run by like big companies are
there's
using
actually
this loophole?
there's a lot of immigrants came in and became citizens and they're like, hey, we can run this on our own too. So they're also doing the same thing.
No shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
America's wild.
Hey, I mean, if there's an opportunity,
Yeah,
you
somebody's
got to
gonna
figure it out.
capitalize.
Exactly.
Somebody will capitalize.
But yeah, so I was just chasing money, trying to figure out how to, build something. So I spent a year and a half in North Carolina consulting for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. They were acquiring. They're in the business of actually acquiring other companies that come out with drugs. As soon as they find out some company's coming out with a drug, they'll just go buy it.
They buy it, shut it down, and come out with their own version.
No, they just manufacture. They
okay.
They shut down all their R&D, and all they do is manufacture.
Wild, isn't it?
Right. So they had taken over Wyatt, which was the largest kids medicine producing company in the world.
Okay.
And they took them over all over the world. I think that was a $72 billion deal that they did.
You signed a $72 billion deal?
They did.
Oh, okay.
And I just kind of helped manage like a few sites to like as we
Really?
closed down the R&D facilities. Yeah. So I ran like part of their program.
No.
Along with
Dang,
it.
dude, good for you.
Well, so but that's there's layers, right? So I
Always.
think it was either Accenture or Cognizant that had the main contract for a piece of it, and then since they don't have all the resources, they subcontract people out. So there's like 2 or 3 companies of layers. Someone will get the contract from them, and then they will feed it down somebody else.
Sells
And
what's left of the contract, and
each person is taking their cut. But I was fortunate enough that as I started working with the client, who were the full-time employees of Pfizer, like the executives and stuff, right, for those locations, they started trusting me more than my boss.
Really?
They just saw that he was more competent, I was more competent, I was like understanding better. They will literally look at me in front of him and ask me the questions like, can that be done?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
So did he start not liking you then?
I think he used me as like, hey, it's working.
Okay, at
I
least
get
he
a
was
good
cool about
word.
it,
So
yeah.
I think he was smart, at least that way, where he's just like, hey, I'm not gonna see that as an issue.
Yeah.
Because at least I'm not getting a bad rep. We're still getting stuff done.
For sure.
But I used that as an opportunity to learn how the work is done, and because I knew once this contract was over, I needed to figure out what to do next.
Okay.
Right. So this one got over, and now we moved to Des Moines, Iowa.
Oh, you're all over the place,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
How was that?
Not bad. I had a good time there too.
Yeah. You're just making the best out of anywhere, huh?
Yeah, I'm trying, dude.
You're just living the dream at this point. You're like,
Yeah.
I am not in India, so I'm cool with wherever.
Exactly. I just got to make money.
Yep.
That's all was in my head, and I'll move and I'll sacrifice what I need to sacrifice
Yeah.
to go make money.
Yep.
Yeah, I moved there, got the next contract, and at this point I got into healthcare insurance. I was working for a Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay.
And it was a big mandate that came down from the government to like, hey, we need to implement this. Got there and found out the mandate got moved another 10 years or so we may be shutting everything down. I'm like, oh crap.
Really?
Thankfully, I was one of the lucky ones that got held back. They're like, we'll keep you,
Oh,
but
okay.
we got to let the rest of these guys go.
Yeah.
Like, sounds good.
No shit.
Yeah. And then at that point, I'm like, okay, I understand this. I need to figure out how to cut out some of these middlemen. So that's when I went and opened my own LLC. Like, I'm going to cut out a bunch of these middlemen.
Good for you,
Now
dude.
let's
So
go
you
make this
went
money.
from being kind of a shithead kid in India, somehow getting
I
into
don't know if I was shithead.
okay, rebellious kid.
Yeah.
We'll go with a rebellious kid in
Yeah.
India to ending up in Fargo, North Dakota,
Yep.
to now starting your LLC.
Yep.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So once you started that, then you just kind of started picking up your own contracts on your own?
No, you still go through companies.
Okay.
Because other people have bigger reach to like get these bigger contracts.
Yeah.
But what you do end up getting is like you cut out a bunch of layers and you can negotiate a better rate directly with the company that has the actual contract, right?
Okay.
So now there's no layers between who initially got the contract and you.
You're just cutting out all the hands out of the pockets.
Yep,
then.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Worked with this company, met some great people, moved out to Minneapolis area in Minnesota, and then just bought a house there and ran operations out of there. Like,
Good
hey,
for
I
you.
will fly wherever I need to fly because now I'm confident enough and I have enough experience where, I can negotiate these things. Like, I'm not going to be living wherever the work takes me.
Yeah.
You can pay for my flights and hotel, and I'll fly wherever you want me to fly. I'll stay as many days you want me to stay, but you're going to pay for the hotel, you're going to pay for per diem,
Yep.
you're going to pay for car service. So,
Good for you, man.
yeah, it was a great time.
And how long did you do that for?
All the way till 2017.
And then what? You're just over it at this point, or what?
So, yeah, a couple of things happened, right? So, first, like, I didn't always speak English like this either, right? So that
Okay.
was one of the things that I learned once I got in the country, because, I had to go with, like, there's two things really to it. Like, hey, I knew when I decided to stay, like, hey, I'm going to live here, right? So the biggest thing is, like, I need to make sure I can communicate better. Like,
Yep.
why wouldn't you want to do it?
Absolutely.
Right? And then the second thing is, as soon as I start working with executives, it's like, hey, I need to make sure I can actually sell this stuff. So I need to make sure I'm clear in conversations, right?
How hard was it, or was it easy for you to pick up the dialect, or like I mean, you're pretty much retraining yourself.
Yeah. So the worst part was, since I grew up in a small town in India, we didn't really speak a lot of English, even though we were taught English in school.
Okay.
It was just a messed up version of English, and
Yeah.
the pronunciation wasn't there. The accent is obviously a thing. But when I first moved to Fargo and people told me the only job I can do is to go wash dishes, I was like, I'm just not going to do that. Not that that's
Yeah.
a bad job.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I can find another job. So I actually got my first job in U.S. was a TA in math. Of course, I'm from India. I know math.
Right. It's natural.
But the problem is, like, a lot of people won't even go and try for that because they just assume no one would give them that job. I'm like, have you tried applying for it at least?
Right.
So I applied and no one was applying. I got that job right away. But that helped me fix my English, because I would go in and try to, like, go do this lecture, and kids, they were my age, like, oh, did you mean this? I'm like, yes. I didn't know that's how you said it. And I
Yup.
kind of fixed my pronunciation there.
Okay.
And then the more I talked with executives as I started working, the better I forced myself to get. So it was a learning curve, like,
Good
especially
for you,
like
man. That's
forgetting
awesome.
those bad habits. But
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it wasn't easy, especially the accent from North Dakota.
oh yeah, I had a hard time understanding people, because, like, people would speak very fast,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not used to hearing proper English anyways, or like American English. I was like,
with a Fargo accent,
Yeah.
probably didn't help at all.
yeah, I'm like, I catch 5 words, the rest of it's just gone. So I'm just like one of those
Piecing sentences together.
classic immigrant, just smiling, nodding head.
Got it. Got it. So you've run this business for quite a while now. You're
Yeah.
on LLC, which is pretty cool to,
Yeah,
you're
it
years
was
into
great.
it.
Yeah, it was great. Money was great. It was growing rapidly. Every contract I got, the next one got better than that. The rate got better than the previous one.
Yeah.
Every now and then you'll have a lull of like a month or so between contracts, which is fine. Like, you make enough money where it doesn't even phase you that I
Yep.
haven't worked, or not really worked, but like you may not get a paycheck this month. It didn't really matter.
Yeah.
You get
Yeah.
30, 40, 50,000 coming in a month. So it's like,
No kidding.
yeah.
Damn. Good. Did you have a bunch of employees, or is this you just?
No, so I started out just with me, and then there's a couple times where I just brought in other subcontractors. So,
Got it. So you're banking everything.
yeah, and
For the most part.
there's really no expense on that,
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
it's like, okay,
You're just putting deals together.
yeah.
Damn, dude, that's awesome.
It was a good deal.
Yeah.
Got to travel a lot full time. I was in Chicago a lot. I was in Dallas a lot.
So you're getting to check out the country, learn the language,
Yep.
and you're making really good money.
Yep.
And your parents wanted you to go to
Yeah,
a school over in India.
yeah.
Were you calling back like, like I'm making it, I'm doing it, Dad?
No.
No.
I mean, there had been some rough times too.
Okay.
Where, when I was first starting
for
out,
sure.
it's like there were days where, like, I went without eating food because I didn't have money, and I didn't have a job, or these people were taking so much money out of my pocket where I had nothing left. It's just like, oh, I paid my bills and that's all I had.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, so you
So
went through
that
a
was-
long time of struggling. I mean, I'm probably making it seem like it was just like one win after another, but there's
Oh,
a
no, I
lot,
mean,
a
yeah.
lot in between that. You
Yeah,
know.
it's like a typical course of, like, hey, how things really work out.
Yeah.
You don't, like, instantly, nothing happens overnight, but yeah, eventually things worked out. Some people saw there was something there, so they also helped. So that was great as well. But as I was doing this in about 2013, 2014, I was traveling to Dallas for work, and my dad had been sick at this point in time for a while, and He had GBS.
What's GBS?
It's like an autoimmune disease.
Okay.
So he got it out of nowhere. So one day he came back home from work and he laid down to take a nap, and then he told my mom he can't feel his legs.
Really?
So yeah, he started getting paralyzed, and that's how that disease actually starts.
Just out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere, yeah. Super healthy.
Damn.
He was 55 or something, I think, and yeah, started getting paralyzed, and very quickly just moved throughout his body. So they took him to the hospital like the same day, and apparently once it gets to your lungs, like you have to be in an incubator or whatever they call it.
Mm-hmm.
So he got put on that right away,
No.
and yeah, I didn't go back. I didn't know. I mean, I just know like he got sick. I didn't know exactly what was going on, and I was continuing the whole business thing, right? So I was flying to Dallas,
Yeah.
and I landed in Dallas, and my phone was blown up.
Ugh.
I look at my phone, and like something bad has happened. So I didn't leave the airport. I fly straight to Minneapolis, grab my passport, catch the next flight to India, and the whole time, like, just don't be gone.
Damn, dude, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to say goodbye?
No.
No? Fuck.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, dude.
But that was kind of the reason, like, even though things were going on upside, at this point, I was just like, you know what? I probably need to do something else with my life.
So that was just like a deciding factor. Wasn't what you were doing wasn't enough?
Yeah, so a little part that I left out was when we were talking about that IIT thing, the other thing that I had also applied for was to join the Air Force in India. And for there, you have to take this exam as well.
Mhm.
It's not just like what we do here for like maps and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Whatever they ASVAB, it's not like that. It's much more difficult, and if you pass it, like you're in.
Okay.
And I got picked up there, and I decided I don't want to do this because I don't want to be poor. So
Is it a prestigious job? You just don't make any money?
It was, and I saw that in my dad's eyes that he really wanted me to do that.
So you felt you wanted to
Yeah.
be able to give back somehow, make your dad proud by now joining the U.S. military?
Well, it was that. It was also like, so after that happened, I kind of struggled for like next 2 years.
Oh, for sure.
Work-wise, it was great, because I was getting more contracts, but I just started to sway away from like, do I want to do this work anymore? And I'm just like, no, then what is it that I want to do? So it was that whole conversation and that whole thing. And then I'm like, hey, Syria's just kicking off. And I'm like, hey, I've always found myself like, I'm not going to sit here and complain about stuff. Like, if I am truly passionate about something, I'm going to find a way to fix something, right? So to me, it's like if there's bad people in the world and you don't kind of align with them, most people don't, and you know you're capable of doing something, why don't you go do it, right? Along with the conversation that I had with my dad. So I was just like, you know what? This is probably my time to just go do it.
Really?
Yeah.
So you walked from everything.
Yeah.
You went to the Army?
So I was, 27, 28 at this time,
Okay.
right? So I knew I wanted to go in, and, my brother always gives me shit about this, like, why didn't you just join the Indian Army? It's like, where is our reach? Like, if I want to do something at this age, like, I want to go and do it where I can have the most impact. And everybody knows, like, we can have the most impact if we run it right. We don't anymore. That's the other question,
Yeah.
So, plus, like, this is what I call home now. Like, I have been here.
Good for you. Yeah.
So, yeah, it took me a couple of years to kind of just come to the realization. It helped, too, that I had just finished a contract, and I was waiting to pick up another one. So I had a month to just kind of gather my thoughts. And I'm like, hey, if I don't do it now, I probably will never do it. It was hard to walk away from all the money, though.
I'm
'Cause,
sure.
Like, once you grow up poor and, like, you've lived through some hard times and then you go ahead and make a lot of money or decent amount of money,
You don't want to give that up.
you don't want to give that up.
No.
It's
It's everything that you've dreamed about.
Exactly.
Which is quite the accomplishment for you, man, to be able to, coming from a small town in India to now owning a business that you're doing 30 to 50 grand a month. I'm just saying, throwing that out. It's probably doing very well for yourself, and you're proud of yourself.
Yeah.
And then but it's still not enough.
Yeah, I had a souped-up Jeep, which I still do, because I wasn't gonna sell that thing. I had a BMW, I had a motorcycle, I had a house, I had a dog.
living the dream.
I was traveling fancy vacations all the time. Like, I had her.
And it
I had
wasn't
what I
enough.
wanted. You know, it wasn't the definition of success had changed. It wasn't just about the money anymore.
Yeah, you had a calling that you didn't.
Yeah.
You need. Isn't it crazy how and you hear these stories of guys that are like NFL players and they gave it all
Yeah.
up and things like, and it's hard for people to fathom. But I mean, when you have that,
Yeah.
it just pulls at you.
Right.
You know, it pulls and pulls and pulls, and you knew you had to do it.
Yeah, and I'm sure like some people kind of, looked at me like, you're dumb, you're doing this, like, oh, what do you think, you're a cool guy now or whatnot. It's like, hey man, at least I'm willing to give the things up I want to give up and go
Yeah.
do things that I actually want to do. I would rather go risk this
Yeah.
than sit here and be like, oh, maybe I should have done it, So that was kind of my mindset. So finally just decided to put everything away and just go see if I can do it or not. So at my age, I didn't want to just go in the military, right? I was like, if I'm going to do this, I need to be in special operations. Like, I need to bring things that I can actually bring to the table and do it right. Like, I don't want
And you were confident enough that you knew you would fit right in with that.
So I was not a runner. And I didn't know anything about the culture, right? So that's the other thing, like not only coming in as an immigrant, like
Yeah.
learning the culture and being part of like a spot where like,
It's pretty tight.
yeah, you're like, hey, I don't know what the culture is going to be like. Am I going to get accepted or not? I don't know, right?
The culture as in the SF community
Yeah.
or just
yeah.
military?
Yeah, just military and SF.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what any of that looks like, especially me being a foreigner, because I didn't know how many foreigners are in the military at the moment, right?
Yep. Not a lot.
And there's still a few, and like I don't think anybody looks at us any differently. As long as you do your job.
That's all anybody cares about.
Exactly.
Just don't get us in trouble. Don't get us hazed. You're good.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, yeah, I put everything away, and at this point, I was on a green card status.
Okay.
So I was still not a citizen, but so this was 2017. Yeah, sorry, I skipped your question. Yeah, started looking into what special operations I can join.
Why was that? Like, why did you know you wanted to go that route? Just because if you didn't want to just be a normal.
Well, I'm like, if I'm going to give all these things up that I just gave up, I'm not just going to be a normal grunt. It's
Got
just
it.
like, how much impact am I going to have there?
Okay.
Like, so I'm like, I need to be in special operations if I'm going to do something better, and that's the route. So I started doing my research as to what's the quickest route to get to one of the special operations unit. Wasn't a swimmer, wasn't a runner, wasn't a rucker. You know, I had barely started working out like 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm going to do this.
Like, we're gonna give it hell.
Yeah, we're just going to go give it a shot. So I go to all the recruiters and find out Army is the place to be. And then I looked into Green Beret mission. I'm like, yeah, I want to be a Green Beret. I want that.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's what I want to be.
So when you went to the recruiter, do you walk and you're like, I want to be a Green Beret?
Yep.
And they're looking at this kid that's can probably speak some pretty broken English from India, and they're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Like, sign here. Is that, you mean?
So I went in, I was very specific. I was like, hey, I'm here for the 18 X-ray contract because that's the Green Beret contract, like your shot to assessment and selection right from the street, right?
Which is crazy they allow that. That
all
blows my
services
mind.
do that now. It's not just, and it comes and goes in waves. It has been done way before in like
Yeah.
a long time ago. Then it went away.
Right,
Then it
when
came
they
back
need
in,
numbers
when
and
they
things
need
like that,
numbers,
yeah.
right? And I honestly see it's like a great opportunity to actually get some good guys. Like some of those NFL players came through the same programs.
Okay.
Because they're capable guys, right? They're looking for guys that are willing to learn and are quick learners and are smart.
That's what's crazy about the special forces community, and obviously me not being one of them, but what I've put together over the years, it doesn't matter how strong and tough, it's mental.
Yep.
I mean, because you see some of these guys that are graduating, you're like, I would run fucking laps, and they just no.
Yeah,
they'll
there's-
run laps until you quit, and then they just keep. It's the never quit mindset
Yep.
of those guys. And I mean, you think that you need to be coming out just jacked out of your mind, which they'll end up eventually. But you see these guys come out of some of these training schools, and you're just like, that guy's a Green Beret, that guy's this, and you're like, God, they're tiny little things sometimes.
Even we say that.
Yeah, I'm sure he made it. Yeah, so which is crazy because you have this mind. You know, as an outsider, you're like, oh, you got to be like this Greek god and
Yeah.
perfect. It's all just. I feel like a mindset is 90% of it.
Yeah.
You can just get past that. Like, you're
Oh
in.
yeah, and we can talk more about like the shape later on down
For
here.
sure, yeah,
'cause,
definitely
like,
wanna dive into
that. Yeah, because there's like things to it too, right? But yeah, so my question to him, and I only asked one question, I'm like, hey, can I actually get this contract? Because as of today, I'm not a citizen. I'll be a citizen in December because I'll hit my 5-year mark, and then it doesn't matter. He's like, you don't have to worry about that because you'll be a citizen in May. I'm like, what's that supposed to mean? He's like, well, as soon as you're done with basic training, you'll be a citizen. I'm like, okay, May, December, regardless, today I'm not.
Yeah.
Can I still get this contract? He's like, yeah. I'm like, are you 100% sure? He's like, yeah. I'm like, sounds good, man. I'm going to shut my business down and let's do it.
Yeah, you trusted a recruiter like that, huh?
Yeah, I was dumb.
You rolled the dice on that one.
Yeah, because it get worse.
Okay, let me hear it. So you're all excited. You shut your very successful business down to now be a Green Beret.
Yeah.
And you're trusting all of this on a recruiter.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. You know,
Please,
I
continue.
am super smart.
There's streets and there's books, buddy. There's streets and books.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. Yeah, I mean, all of us trust recruiters at one point.
You
You
know,
know,
yeah. It's like,
no
this guy
offense.
is in the Army. Why would he lie to me?
Yeah, he's wearing these uniform. He looks he's at my house talking to my parents.
He's got to be honest, right?
And sleazeballs. The recruiters, actually, I don't even care if I offend anybody. Recruiters in the military are the used car salesmen just circling lots, dude, 100%.
We call them shitty used car salesmen, if you're listening to me.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Give kudos to the recruiters for bringing all of us into the military, but y'all are some dirtbags. You're going to shoot bombs and just get laid and shoot machine guns. And I was like, where do I sign? And they don't tell you about the brass you're picking up for 4 days, cleaning the heavies, the 50s, and the Mark 19s for another week after that. None of that is in the fine print.
That's not fancy.
I wanted to climb volcanoes and slay lava dragons like in the Marine commercials. And the dude pulls out the blues. It's like, that's what I'm doing.
I mean, you guys do have really good recruiting.
Yeah.
That's out of all the services, branch of services, like yours is the best.
I don't know how. You'd think they'd just be like a box of crayons and like some coloring paper and be like, can you stay inside the lines? Nope, you went to the Air Force. You're too smart.
Let us show you what you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
You get hungry? Eat.
Yeah, exactly. So you're a recruiter.
Yeah, so,
How full of shit was he, or was he legit?
I just think he was too quick to answer the question without, like, doing his due diligence, right? I think he truly believed that that's how it's going to work.
Or was he just trying to fill that quota?
It could be it too.
Yeah.
That could be it too. Yeah. So, anyways, we go to MEPS, after like a week or so, get through everything. They don't tell me anything up until I'm about to sign on the contract, and they go, here's your 11 X-ray contract. I'm like,
no.
That's not what I asked for. He's like, well, because of that citizenship, we can't. I'm like, but that's the conversation we had, buddy. That's the first question I asked you for that reason.
So he let you get all the way up until signing
everything.
all through MEPS,
Yep, I already done the duck walk and everything.
Oh, God, remember that? How degrading is that? That's the shit where that's what starts veteran pride. Is MEPS, where you're in your whitey tighties. Well, at least I was. I was still in fucking high school. I was
not. I was 28.
In your little whitey tighties, duck walking with your hands above your head across this cold ass floor. With this creepy. Now that I look, that dude was the biggest chomo. The creepiest old nose, ear hair hanging out doctor, and he's like poking and prodding you, and you're just standing there.
Bro, this is my life.
And I was like, I'm gonna be a Marine still. This is gonna be great. Like, do you have all the signs in the world?
Yeah, it's like there's still time to quit.
Isn't MEPS the craziest? Craziest, like, at least as me coming like fresh out of high school, it is one of your first experiences of like, okay, I'm very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because it's just weird. Like,
it's weird. And I was there at 28, right? So everybody else there was a high school kid.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what am I doing? Right?
Children.
Yes.
Doing some weird shit at MEPS.
Like, exactly. So, yeah.
So you went through all of that, and then you get the wrong contract.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not signing. So this guy starts making some phone calls.
Goes into panic mode or what?
Yeah, gets the Green Beret recruiter on the line.
Like the actual Green Beret recruiter.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. This guy's tabbed and he has his Green Beret.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just believing what they're telling me at this point because I think part of me just had already made the decision that I'm going to do this. So I just wanted to get in. At this point, I'm just like, I'm too committed.
This wasn't a Green Beret recruiter for the Green Berets. This was just a recruiter
regular-
that was a Green Beret.
Yes.
Okay, so he wasn't like pushing and pulling people to the program of becoming SF.
The
He
guy
just-
that he called
Yeah.
was an actual, because we have guys too that will go do some recruiting.
Okay,
right?
that's what. Yeah,
Or
okay, that
ask-
was my question.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's you can take that as an assignment in order to like
Got
get
it.
close to home on your
Yeah,
off
yeah,
times,
yeah.
right? So
Okay.
so I talked to this guy. He hands me the phone. He's like, "Hey man, this is a Green Beret, and you can talk to him." And he goes like, "Hey man, when you get to basic training, if you perform, the recruiters will come down there. The liaison will, and he will give you the contract."
I hope this is true.
Oh, he said that.
I know, but I'm
yeah.
thinking, I'm like, is this a real thing in the Army? Because this would not have happened in the Marines. Like,
Oh, I know, right? And I'm like, man, I am talking to a Green Beret. There's no reason this guy would ever
he
lie
would
to me.
never lie to me.
Little do I know, some of you all lie. I'm just kidding.
So you signed the contract?
I'm like, all right, let's do it, man. I'm like, hey, man, what's with the 11 X-ray, though? What does that mean? And he go like, well, it could be 11 Bravo or 11 Charlie. I'm like, what's 11 Charlie? He's like, oh, that's motorman. I'm like, I don't want to do that. It's like, what are the odds that I get that? He's like, bro, it's like 5%. There's no way. There's no way in hell you're going to get, 11 Charlie. Nobody
You're
really
not
gets it.
becoming a mortarman.
I was like, whatever, man, let's do it. I'm definitely going to be 11 Bravo now, I guess.
Ah, they saw you walking before you even
Oh,
got in the
dude.
lot.
Yeah, I go to 20th AG.
Which is training?
Which is like your first spot that you get to at Fort Benning before they assign you to where you're going to be and how where
Okay.
you're before you get distributed to the actual company where you're going to do your basic training.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
or it's like it's OSET, like one station unit training, because
Yeah.
it's infantry, so it's going to be like basic and AIT all together.
Okay.
Yeah, and the guy comes out. It's like, if I called your roster number, you all go to the left, and if I don't call, you all stay to the right. Of course, my roster number doesn't get called.
So you're going to become a mortarman.
I become a motorman.
This is such a military.
that's like
this
if
is the
shit-
military, bro. This
Yeah.
is the military that nobody talks about.
Yep.
That's exactly how it works. They call a roster, and you're
Yep.
like, oh, you go over there, you go over there. You're getting deployed. You're not getting deployed.
Yep, that's
This
how
literally
everything
how
works
it
that
happens.
way.
It's how my second deployment.
Yeah.
If we call your name, stand over there. If we call it, we stand over there. Like, and they're like, all right, if we called your name, you guys are detached today, and you attach to your new unit. You're going to deploy again in 6 months. That's exactly how it happens.
And then you start making, oh, that guy. Oh, I am not going there then, I guess, because that guy sucks.
Yeah. Or can I swap? The best part, you find a dude that doesn't want to go,
Yep.
and they're willing to swap with
But
you,
they won't
and
let
they
you.
won't let you do
They
it.
won't let you, yeah.
They won't let you do it. Needs of the Corps. Needs of the Corps, Marine. Needs of
Yeah,
the Corps.
it's like, okay, I guess, why don't you let the
This
deal work
is the
out?
most military shit. I love this. So
Yeah.
now you just got your soul crushed.
Yeah, man, it's like I gave this thing up to come do this, and literally nothing has worked out to this point, right?
Yeah.
So anyways,
Go Army.
we start basic training, and, I had a really good drill sergeant, too. He looks at me. He's a big dude, too, and I went into the Army. I was 215. I'm not tall, so I was
you're
a
a big
bigger
boy.
dude, right? And he's like, hey, no protein powder getting delivered, all right? I'm like, why are you looking at me? He's like, I'm looking at you. It's like, you're the only one here that's going to need it.
Yeah, right?
Anyways, they feed me like 3 times a day like everybody else, and, all we're doing is running push-ups, sit-ups. I come out of that thing 168.
No.
Yeah. 'Cause
Were
I
you
just-
cycling before you went in? Or
No,
you just,
I never cycled.
No?
Yeah, no, but not until like
Yeah.
later on in my life.
yeah.
But I was
Damn,
just like,
dude.
wow.
It's a lot of weight.
Yeah. I
Bet
was
your
like-
run time increased quite a bit.
Yeah, so we didn't even touch on that, man. So I had looked at, as I started looking to go in SF, I barely had a couple of months before I'm like, I'm going to get shipped out and sign everything. I looked at some of the time standards. I'm like, I don't think and those are just bare minimums, right? I'm like, man, I am far off from this.
Really?
And running is not my strong suit. Like, you give me a bunch of weight, I'll throw that around. I don't have the form for running.
Yeah.
I don't run fast. I'm like, what do I need to run? Oh, at least a 13:20. And that's just a bare minimum, right? And then I ended up running a 12:10 at selection,
Okay.
because you find out later on. But
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, I know I'm not a fast runner, but when the time comes to push comes to shove, like, I am gonna give it my all.
100%.
Because I'm not gonna get out of this course. Anyways, we'll get to that. But yeah, all we did was run. But he asked me, like, how old are you? My drill sergeant that I was talking about. I'm like, I'm 28. He's like, what did you do in life? I'm like, oh, I just owned the business. I just dropped it. It's like, why the fuck are you here?
So I want to be a Green Beret.
And I told him, like, I want to be a Green Beret. He's like, how'd you get stuck here? I'm like, this is what happened. He's like, then I asked him, like, hey, is that true? Like, the recruiters come here? He's like, yeah. And he just looked at me. He's like, don't even worry about it. You'll be fine. Because at this point, they had seen me perform enough. Like, I was just crushing these kids on everything. There's literally a fights going on between drill sergeants. Like, I want him in my company. No, I want him in my company. It's just like,
we had an older guy in my platoon, and he was the favorite. Like they all loved him because you got life. I get it now, but like I was like, fuck this old guy.
I still got smoked with everyone else.
Sure.
But it's just like they knew I was just
it's
like
a respect
willing to.
thing.
Yeah, it was that. It was like they knew I was like putting in effort regardless, because I just like I need to make sure that they see that I'm here and I'm here for something.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is the last, at least for Marine Corps boot camp. That's you just want to be a fly on the wall. You never want to stand out.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're like, I'm trying to so I can be noticed, so I can go live my dream.
Oh yeah.
Shows you how much you want to be a Green Beret.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you're a recruiter, or now you're drill sergeant.
Yeah. He's dedicated. He's like, I'm gonna help you.
Really?
Yeah. And he didn't really need to help all that much, but he was all willing to. And then he ended up going for some assignment for a month or so.
Okay.
And his senior took over. Wasn't senior by much, but like his name was Drill Sergeant Oakley, by the way. I never run into that guy again, but I had a huge respect for that dude, because like he was just a good dude, man. That's the kind of people you want to see in the military, right? And he was capable of doing stuff. He's a big guy too. So there's that.
Yeah.
So the other one comes in and he's like, hey man, I see you on the Green Beret contract, but the Ranger recruiter is going to be here tomorrow. And I say you just go that route. And I'm like, why do you say that? He's like, well, you're definitely going to make Ranger. Green Beret, who knows if you're going to make it or not. And then your needs of the Army. At least here, you're going to keep your MOS and everything. And it's only an 8-week road versus 2 years plus that you may have to commit to this.
And then if you don't, then it's needs of the Army where they can put you could be a cook.
Exactly. So that was the biggest thing with 18 extra. Like, you could be a cook tomorrow, if you don't make it.
Is 18, what are you calling it?
18 X-ray.
Is that open contract then, technically? Because that's what we call it. Like, if you go in open contract, it's literally they will put you wherever the needs of the Corps is.
That's essentially how it works if you don't make it.
Okay.
Yeah. If you don't make it through selection, then you go back to regular Army, and they will slot you. And that's why. So when I was saying,
that's a gambler.
That's a great strategy for the military. Mm-hmm. That's why they have those contracts, because now they can open it to the world or the whole country, right? And they can fill the spots that don't get filled.
So sealed bait and switch is technically what they're doing. You could be a Green Beret, but as soon as you fail, they're like, man, we're really low on cooks or admin.
Yeah, but we at least gave you a shot, right? And now it's up to you. So I'll give them that benefit, though, right?
Yeah.
Hey?
If you make it, you make it. If not, we own you.
Yeah, if you don't know you can make it, you probably shouldn't have taken that risk. Like, that's a risk you are willing to take. I was willing to take that risk.
That's like the devil, man.
Yeah.
It's like, you make it. If not, I own your soul.
But it's open, right? They tell you. They're not lying to you, at least, right? So that's where I can respect that part. Right?
But at the same time, does some 18-year-old kid read between the lines?
Oh, there's no way I ain't going to make it.
I played high school football. I could be a Green Beret. Yeah, son, you're going to be a Green Beret. Then he ends up being a cook. My son was going to be a Green Beret, but he's a loser.
Right. So, anyways, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. He goes like, why not? I'm like, I'm not here to be a Ranger. I'm here to be a Green Beret. That's what I'm going to be.
Good for you, man. Good for you. You're sticking to the guns.
He's like, at least talk to him. Like, fine, I'll talk to him, but I'm telling you, I'm not signing that contract, even if he gives to me. So I go there, and I tell him my situation. He's like, yeah, I can't take you. I'm like, what do you mean you can't take me? He's like, well, because you're not a citizen today. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not taking the contract today. I'm going to take the contract after basic training. But I'm like, I'm glad you're not taking me because I didn't want it anyway. So I just walked away. Next day comes the Green Beret recruiter. I tell him the same thing, and he goes like, why are you telling me this? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, this is an issue. That's what they've been telling me. I'm like, and he goes, it's not an issue. And I knew I was in the right spot at that point. Like, I had made the right decision to go to the right organization because it's just the way Green Berets think. He already knew that was a non-issue. Because by the time I would come close to coming to Fort Bragg, all that stuff would have already been worked out.
Yeah.
And he could see that through.
Yep.
So he didn't even bother himself with things that are not going to be an issue.
Isn't it crazy the different mindset in people?
Yeah,
And just,
you saw the maturity in the guy already. You know?
versus a ranger.
Yeah.
And he was just, no, you're not gonna worry about that shit.
Yeah.
Like, done.
Exactly. If had you just looked at a couple of steps ahead, he would have seen too that it's not an issue.
Yeah, which is it's a mindset in people.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, well, we got to worry about this, or we have to wait for this. And he was just like, yeah, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
You're in. Like, as long as you pass obviously the induct and everything, like, you're good.
Yep. Yeah.
So now you're excited.
Yeah. Now I'm excited. Like, here's my contract. You know, there's other things happen, but everything gets worked out. I go to airborne school from there.
How was that?
It was the biggest waste of 3 weeks of my life.
Why?
Airborne school this is static line, right? So I think it's a way outdated thing. We should not do it anymore.
Okay, so let's talk about this. I watch these videos of these airborne guys, and they're all proud, and they're static lining, and we're going to carry on the tradition, and then they're impaling themselves into the ground, blowing out their knees, backs. I mean, all these, especially we work with a lot of veterans. Half these dudes are airborne guys that blew out their knees and backs and everything are all fucked from these jumps. And I'm like, why are we still doing this?
Right. So think about the last time operationally in a wartime we actually did it.
Germany?
And what was the result of that?
I mean, how many guys were just getting, they're scattered all across.
Right. And what kind of technology existed back in the day?
None.
What kind of technology exists today? If you try to do that against the country today, you will get absolutely obliterated.
Oh, 100%.
Right? So why are we taking this risk when you can just, if we're going to bring the aircraft that low and try to drop people, just land the damn thing.
Okay. So I've always thought, this has been one of those things is like the Marine in me, like I look at them like, why are we doing this?
Yeah. Is there like value in like maybe airfield seizures a little bit? Yeah,
I could understand a small unit like a ranger unit, some SF unit. Okay, we got to come in. We got to land on this mountain in Afghan. We got to get dropped. Whatever. But like the fact that they're dumping like whole platoons and shit down, like this is never going to happen.
No,
never.
No, we're gonna push on foot.
If we're dropping airborne in like by plane loads, this situation is fucked.
Exactly.
I feel like just because it's such an outdated thing. But at the same time, we look what's going on in Ukraine, and I never thought we'd be fighting trench warfare again. And look at these dudes are literally turning corner face to face with each other. Like I never thought that would ever come back.
Yeah, what tanks are still a thing,
I get it. And drones are now too. So,
and how many people are training for that? We'll talk about that too in a second, maybe.
So, sorry, 3 weeks.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
So you learn how to put your legs together and bend the knees.
Yeah, it does not require 3 weeks to learn how to fall, because you essentially get out of the airplane and let Jesus take the wheel.
Were there any dudes that panicked that didn't want to do it?
Not that I noticed.
Okay.
I think you're just like, at this point, you're like, I'm just going to go.
Are you going through with all guys that are going into SF, or is this just jump school in general?
This is just a jump school in general, and people are from regular Army, other services.
Got it.
It's just a mixed class. It could be anybody, because I didn't go through an 18 X-ray class, right? I went through 11 X class.
What's an 18 X-ray?
So that's the SF contract, right? So most of the they try to at one point, we had guys in the Q course, qualification course. We'll talk about that in a second. But a lot of them went to the same basic training. So there was like 50 dudes coming from so it's like a whole platoon.
Already built.
Already built. So they probably all did airborne school together.
Got it.
I was there with 2 other guys from my basic training that also raised their hand to go to SF selection.
That's how. Okay, so out of your platoon, what 50, 60 guys in your platoon at boot camp or basic? Yeah. How many raised their hand and go?
So out of the whole company, 3 raised their hand.
Really?
Yeah. So,
that's it?
Yeah, and yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Because I think a lot of people are afraid of doing it, and they're like, yeah. A lot of people raise their hand for Ranger, which if I was younger, I probably would have done that route. Gone in the regiment and then came out.
Yeah, because Rangers are like the little brothers, I feel like. No offense. No offense. I know I'm going to get some shit like that one, because these SF units are very protective.
Yeah.
But I feel like as an outsider, I look at, as you guys have tiers in the Army, and, it's like the Rangers, like everybody's a fucking Ranger. Like we compare Rangers to a Marine grunt with cooler gear. They just have way cooler gear. That's all that's all Rangers.
They've got cool gear. They're actually good at
so much shit for this.
They're actually really good at their job, because
for sure.
they get to stick to their specialty, right? So if you're a machine gunner,
that's it.
That's all you're running, right? Kind of like you guys, right?
Yeah.
on an ODA, like you have to do 20 different things.
You're a medic. You're a comm guy. You're everything.
You're doing everything. And we'll talk about that too. So I think the guys get really good at it. You're generally younger guys, right? They get attached to the unit a lot, so they get to do their outer cordon a lot, or like whatever their needs it.
Yep.
You know, they'll employ them however they choose to. They're good guys, but yeah, different mission set, right?
For sure.
Way different than what we do.
For sure.
Yeah. So a lot of guys raise the hand for that. But yeah, 3 weeks of doing that, you know, you get paid $150 a month to jump whatever your currency requirements is, right?
God.
It's like, oh, my life is worth $150 a month for jumping out of an airplane.
Wild?
Yeah, I was getting paid more for speaking language than jumping out. And I get it, you know, it's a proficiency thing, but like
Yep.
I knew how to speak a language. You know, I didn't really
Have to learn
it, right? But you know, fine, you want to pay me, I'll take the pay. But that's like the risk reward is what my issue is. Like we don't look at in the military things like, hey, what's the risk associated and what's the reward, right? So we have all these airborne units that exist today, and they have to jump on a regular basis. And you know, most of the kids that are in those units are like, oh, it's so cool. It's like, well, you're just hurting yourself,
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
and you're one bad jump away from like breaking a leg, or you know, worse things could happen.
For sure.
And is that an applicable skill set, right? And to say that we have to maintain proficiency is like, if we ever need to come do this, like you're gonna throw people out of the plane anyways.
Oh, 100%.
You can run a 1 week course, refresh everybody, and go do it, which you have to do today anyways.
You can learn in a day to put your legs together and
Exactly.
try to absorb.
Yeah.
So has it sunk in yet? Like, holy shit, this might happen.
What?
You're about to be a Green Beret. I mean, like, you're going through jump school. I mean, I'm trying to picture you as some Indian kid. And, like, you're looking back in your life, you're like standing in the door, like, how in the fuck did I get here? I mean, did that ever occur to you?
Yeah, so it was a night jump, and you know, I'm the first one to jump out of the plane, and there's thunderstorm coming in, so you can see the lightning in distance.
Okay.
And the only thing I remember at this point is when I was a kid. You've seen this in movies, man. People call me Aladdin for this all the time. But we would play tag, and we would play tag by running on the roofs of the houses. Like we're on.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're upstairs, and we're jumping from roof to roof.
Okay, so this is some Aladdin shit.
No, and you know, I went back as I had matured enough, and I'm like, man, we were stupid as kids. We were like 2-3 stories high, you know, jumping between buildings with no fear at all. And I'm like, now I'm standing in this door. I'm like, man, what was I doing?
My life wasn't that bad before.
Yeah. So I was just like, you know, it doesn't click in. As the older you get, you start realizing, like, this may not be the smartest thing I'd be doing.
Yeah, 100%. You know? That's called maturing. When you're
like,
yeah.
I say that, and then I go do dumb stuff again, you know? That's part of being a man.
I got scars to prove it, bro. Yeah. I'm with you. So you're about okay. So I don't even know where we're.
You're like, has it kicked in? Like,
yeah.
if
So
I'm going to be a Green Beret.
You're going through school.
To me, all I needed was my shot. Like I had no doubts that I'm not going to make it. I may be a little cocky on that, but like I am. Because for me there was no option. I just gave up a life that I had just built to come do this. Like I need to do this. My issue was everything else that was going around. Like, oh, you won't get a contract now. You're 11 Charlie, right? Now I get to Fort Bragg, and like I said, I was never a runner, and you know, lucky me gets to Fort Bragg in the summertime when there's no selection classes going on, which just means more time to get smoked in the student company. So you get to Fort Bragg, Liberty. I'll still call it Bragg.
Yeah, right. Old school dudes do.
Exactly. So you get to Fort Bragg, and you become part of Fort. Student company is what they call it. So essentially, it's like a holding.
It's a waiting. We call them waiting platoons.
Yep, exactly.
Which is where you never want to be.
Yep, until you know you get to your. They call it prep course, SOPSI. Like.
Okay.
And
so you're waiting for the next school to build to pick up.
Yep, exactly. And now you're at SWIC. We call it SWIC. So Special Warfare Training Center and School. Center and School, I guess. SWICs. So I'm there, and we're getting smoked every day.
How long were you in waiting platoon or in the holding platoon?
I spent about a couple months, maybe 3 months there because
so
there was
that's
no
hell.
class, right? Yeah,
So
because you're just, and you know, It depends on when you get there, right?
If you're in the beginning, it's horrible because you spent.
Yeah.
Okay, so people listening, the waiting platoon, or what do you call them, SWICs?
This student company.
Student company.
Yeah.
Are horrible places. They could
Yeah.
they could be amazing if depending on who's running it.
Yep.
But for the most part, it's shit because you usually get some broke dick that can't deploy. He's a shitbag, and they put him in charge of looking over the new students
Yeah.
as they come in. And we call them a waiting platoon because you're literally just waiting for the next class to pick up.
Yeah.
And depending on when you get there, if you're one of so as a platoon builds,
Yeah.
then they will get picked up and go to start their school.
Yep.
Well, then you have this awkward gap where they're like every week there's graduations happening from boot camp or basic
Right.
training, and so if you're the first class to come in, there might be only like a dozen of you there.
Yep.
And then you have some asshole that's running it, and you're getting hazed
Yep.
all day just because you're alive.
Yeah.
And then you have to wait the weeks or months
Yeah.
for there to be enough students to pick up. So if you come in at the end, usually you're there a couple weeks, maybe less, and then your class picks up and moves on.
Yep.
So that's an awaiting like.
Yep,
and
exactly.
It's
Yep,
horrible.
You explained it pretty well.
It's
Yeah.
horrible.
All our guys were obviously, Green Berets that are assigned to SWIC now, the schoolhouse.
Yeah.
And most of them were good guys too. Like, I won't say like some of them, maybe not, are frustrated and taking it out on the kids.
sure, yeah.
Whatever, part of cycle. But this is where it became real, like, because we called it going across the street. So we would do normal PT,
Okay.
whatever they make us do. It'll be a slew of events, like we're carrying stuff and we're running on this road. Guys will get hit by the cars on the road all the time. Because we're like running like 50, 40 guys, maybe more, and we're running with tires and, rods and logs and rocks and stuff.
I was gonna say rocks
Yeah.
stuffed in your cargo pockets.
Rocks, you're just doing dumb
Tank
shit,
track.
carrying each other, right? And we'll do that, and then usually Thursdays and Tuesdays were the day of like we're going across the street. So essentially, you go across the street into the woods, and they had this little smoking area prepared where there was like a dirt, really rough, like it was almost a trail turned into a track.
Okay.
And you will do laps around that, and there's like holes, and like it was not. When you have like hundreds of guys running through that, like people are tripping over, and you gotta make time, so you're just running over the guy that just got tripped over.
No, it's every man for himself.
Yeah, and they will give us some absurd time hack, right? It's like
You're never gonna
all
make.
gotta come at this time, and then if not everybody makes it through, everyone gets smoked.
All over
right? So
mass
you're just getting
punishment.
smoked.
I'm a firm believer in
And
mass
it's like, oh,
punishment.
you guys are hot. Let's go to the other side. We'll cool you off. So we'll bear crawl, all the way across this track and up the hill, where this nasty pond, and be like, we'll cool you guys off. Run through this, and then when you run, and we say down, you're gonna drop down into this nasty water. Get up, and then you do some hill spills.
So this is why you don't want to be in a waiting platoon, because this could go on for a while.
This can go on for a while. It went on for a while, but this is where it got real for me because I started seeing people quit. Up until this point, I hadn't seen people quit, and I'm like, fuck yeah. Every time somebody quit, I was like, yes, this is a place where I want to be because this is hard and challenging now because people are quitting.
And you haven't even technically started yet.
No, you haven't even, you're nothing right now. You're just
And
a
dudes are
candid.
already quit. You're just in a waiting platoon. You're literally just killing
yeah.
time.
Yep. They will literally come out and be like, all right, I need 5 quitters today, and then it will stop.
And people would quit?
People will quit. But that's where you find out. That's where you like get rid of a lot of people. So I was actually in favor of this.
Yeah, okay. Because it's less...
Because I think there's only certain things you can do during the course, and I'll probably get a lot of bashing for saying this, but those are controlled, and there's a lot of eyes on there, right? You can do stuff here where you don't see a lot of eyes, and you can get rid of people that should never be in our ranks.
Well, nobody's thinking of the waiting platoon.
Exactly.
That's why they can take you, and they always have little spots in the woods that are
Yep.
just out of view, and
Yep.
they can haze the shit out of you,
Yep.
and they have all their little games that they can play because they're
Yep.
not under the magnifying glass like the normal
Right.
Ranger, but Green Beret schools are,
Yep.
where you have the brass.
Yep.
Everyone's watching.
That's exactly what I'm
So
saying.
you're forgotten about.
Yeah.
And they could just have their way with you.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure the hammer gets dropped on them sometimes too. As
But not as
people
often.
start complaining, because some people do complain.
Wild.
But then this is not the spot for you. You shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
To me, I'm just like, we need to hold standard, and however best we can hold that standard, we should hold that standard.
So you finally pick up.
So, well, I don't pick up just yet. So I
Damn,
spent
how long were you in there?
3 months doing this, right? Up until the day where I was ready to start the prep course, right?
Okay.
And I was having pain in my hip for the longest time. I can't even remember if it was right or left now. And I was still making all the time standards, and I knew something was wrong. I just couldn't figure out what it was. But I didn't want to say anything to anyone because I didn't want people to know that I'm hurt, and then I get pulled back. Anyways, we get done, through our session for the day, last session, and the cadre looks up to me. He's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Because I was limping, and I'm like, "Oh, nothing. I just did heavy squats yesterday. I'll be good tomorrow." And everybody disappears from this field, and I'm left by myself, and I can't move.
Really?
Yeah, I could not move at all. Like, my leg was just done, like frozen done. So I crawled to my Jeep, get in there, come back, and I'm like, I have no option but to let him know, like, something's up. So I go get seen by a doctor. I'm like, "Hey, my hip hurts." Like, he looks at me, old crusty dude. Everybody knows it who's been to the program, He's very salty. Prior Green Beret as well. He's a civilian now, PA.
Yeah.
But he looks at me, he's like, "You got a stress fracture." I'm like, "No way." He's like, "Yes, you do." I'm like, "Go get your MRI. I'm telling you that's what it is."
He's seen it before.
Oh, it's pretty common, especially for a guy like me, coming in at 215, dropping all that weight, building back up, and all I'm doing is running, rucking, right? Just constant impact, and I don't have the best form for that, right? Because I've never done that, I was never a runner, and I'm just like, I'm gonna muscle through this whole thing. So that was the plan, and it backfired.
So now you have a stress fracture.
Yeah, so MRI comes out, and he goes, "You were less than a millimeter away from needing a new hip, because apparently if it goes more than halfway through your hip, you're done. Like, you need a new hip." So he goes, "You're going to be on crutches now, but while we were doing this, your back also showed up in the MRI." And I'm like, "What's up with that?" And he goes like, "There's no way you're going to make it through selection, let alone the Q course with your back."
No.
I was like, "Okay. What does that mean?" He goes like, "We'll address that when the time comes, but here's your crutches, and you're going to be on hold now. You're not going anywhere." So
Oh, no.
I'm like, you guys have med platoons or?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I was going to get kicked off to the med section because I was hurt now.
You never want to be there.
I went up to these cadre that were smoking us every day. I'm like, "Hey, Sarge, here's what happened. Like, I was pushing through it. I've been hurting for a few days. I didn't want to say anything because I want to go. Like, I am not a shitbag that's doing this as an excuse. Like, you have seen me fucking show up and perform every single day. I don't want to be in this med platoon. Can you do something for me to make sure I at least get a chance to go to selection? Like, that's all I want." And he, straight up, he's like, "We're going to keep you in our office."
Really?
Yeah. These guys literally were like, "We will help you. You're going to stay in our office. Don't worry about it." And they kind of just hid me there while I recovered.
How long did you recover for?
It was 3 months on crutches.
Really? So you just did like their admin work and stuff for them in there, or what?
Yep. I was moving. Did you guys have magnets for guys ever?
No, I don't.
So in the schoolhouse, there's a big board, and everybody has a magnet,
Okay.
and that's how you track guys. Like, "Hey, it's moved from this phase to this phase."
Okay,
So
yeah.
I would do that for them.
Yeah, just filing paperwork and shit all day.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I was on crutches, man. And the hardest part was I lived in the second floor. I would do like
Yep.
stairs because I didn't have elevator in that. And then all the people that I knew had moved on now, right? Because they got to go to selection and they knew whether they made it or not. Regardless, they're moved forward, so they're not there anymore. And I'm going to chow hall on crutches with my tray, trying to like
And
get
nobody
my
to help you.
I didn't know anyone, because
So you're on your own.
I was on my own at this point again in my
Damn.
life. But I'm like, okay, everybody that gets assigned to that med section never really comes back from that.
No.
Yeah, there's just no coming back because guys fall off, don't work out, and it's super hard to come back in shape, right?
Yeah.
So I was that guy that was going to gym every single day with my crutches, and I would do anything I can do without putting weight on my hip. I would be standing on one leg doing ski erg,
Really?
Yeah.
Good for
Up
you.
until I can, like,
Because when you go to those med platoons, those guys, I mean, we always call them the fat body platoons because that's where, like, you go there and guys
Yeah.
would be there for years
Yeah.
sometimes, and they just put on a ton of weight, and, like, you just never come out of those.
because you think you're hurt, you're not supposed to do anything, and I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
As soon as I'm off crutches, I need to go to the selection.
Yeah. So as soon as you're off crutches,
Yeah. So
did you have an opportunity to go to selection?
Yeah. So I got off crutches in January, whatever year that was.
Yeah.
Anyways, I come back. I'm like, hey, I'm good. Send me to the next prep course so I can go to selection. And then one of my cadres, he was trying to help me. He's like, nah, man, you just got off crutches. You're gonna train with us, and then you're gonna go to soft. I'm like, hey, man, I respect that. And at this point, like, they knew I was their age,
Yeah.
and I was older and everything, and we were becoming like friends. And I'm like, hey, man, I respect that, but like, I need to go. I can't linger anymore. Like, I need to find out where my fate is. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm gonna make it or not. Like, this is like, I can't sit here anymore. Like, I've been in limbo for a long time. And he goes like, I'm just trying to help you because you're not prepped. I'm like, I got 3 weeks of prepping there, and we'll go from there. How about this? I go there, and you can look at my numbers after I come back, and if you don't think they're good enough, then don't send me. And he goes like, all right, we got a deal. I'm like, cool, send me the next one.
So you go.
I run my first 2 mile over 15 minutes.
How did that feel?
I essentially failed it because, I hadn't,
Yeah.
I
Haven't run in
hadn't
months.
right? Passed everything after that, because
No
I'm like,
shit.
let's just go, man.
No kidding.
I wanted that slot, man.
Damn, dude, you're just a little machine.
Yeah. I just had no quitting in me, man.
Yeah.
I was just not going to let someone else decide if I'm going to get to do this or not.
I mean, that's one way to look at it,
Yeah.
Put it on nobody but yourself.
Yeah.
So you obviously went through and made that. So then what
Yeah.
was the next process from there? Are you
And there's
like,
really like no making or not making it. You
Okay.
just like,
if you pass or fail?
yeah,
Or
there's not really much.
Yeah.
They will send back like if they want any guys to come back through it, but generally it doesn't happen. It's
Okay.
just like, hey, you had your 3 weeks to learn a few things and
Okay.
get in shape. Now you go to selection.
Cool. So you're
Which-
off to selection now.
Yep. So I go to the.
So you're
comes
excited.
back,
You're like, holy shit, this is finally happening.
Yep. And the only thing I was worried about, people ask me like, hey, what was the hard part? Selections aren't like, selection is not hard. Is it challenging? Yes, it's supposed to be challenging. It's not hard.
What
right?
goes on in a Green Beret selection
Yeah.
training? I mean,
So-
what's the process for
Yeah.
it?
So it's a 3-week course that
Okay.
you have to go through, maybe 21, 22 days, some admin days. But the first week is all about gate events. We call it the gate week, right? So essentially, they're doing your, PT tests,
Okay.
right? That's the first thing you will do. There's a couple other physical fitness tests that you will do. Then you will do some long runs, short run. You do some rucks. So 2 runs and 2 rucks. And you don't have a watch for any of this, right? So, and you don't know how far you're going. They just take you out, give you a start point, and then there's just cones throughout the trails.
So you don't know how fast to pace yourself. If it's a
Nope.
short one, you can sprint it. If it's long, you got to pace your.
Exactly. You don't know if this is a short one or the long one. So you can't game it and be like, oh, I'm just going to go fast because I know this is a short one.
So
You
a
don't
guy
know.
like you, is it hard to not just go pedal to the floor?
I only
and-
got one speed, man. When I run,
Okay, yeah.
I'm
That's-
going to go out hard because I
Yeah.
know regardless, I'm going to slow down.
Yep, I'm the student right out the
So
gate.
I'm
everything.
just going to send it.
Yep.
And then when I slow down, I slow it on.
That's my pace. When I slow down, that's my pace. So are there a lot of guys dropping at this point, or is everybody kind of on the same page?
So gate week kind of like will get out the guys that have clearly not prepped anything at all,
Okay.
right?
They're just wasting time.
They're just wasting time. Things will get you kicked out, like showing up with like the wrong time or wrong stuff on you, right? So, because things just get put out on a board, like there's a TV outside, and you have to constantly keep checking that.
So it's big boy rules at this point.
Yeah, everything's like, hey, keep checking the board, and the times and your uniform and equipment we put out, just be there with all that.
Got it.
So the only thing I was worried about was the 2 runs because I didn't know how I was going to make it through.
Are these weighted runs, or just free? Are you just doing it all? Do you have a pack on or anything?
So we have rucks,
Yep.
right? So you do 2 runs, which are without
Got it.
the packs, and then 2 rucks.
How fast is the ruck tempo? Is it like a jog, or is it you just walking?
Oh, guys run. And for a guy,
That's why
with
I'm asking. These
guys
runs are-
like me with short legs, I gotta run. There's no way I can just walk. Cause like you will see a lot of guys like who are helping out, you prepping guys for like going to selection. Now they're like,
Yeah.
there's no need to run. you're tall, man. You're
I have
tall.
a bigger, way bigger stride.
Exactly. Like, for a guy like me, it just would never work. I will never make time if I didn't run on
Got
my
it.
ruck.
Yeah, I get it.
It's like,
Well,
that's
it's like
just how
the
it
you
is.
know when these platoons when we would do our ruck marches,
Yeah.
they tallest to shortest.
Yep.
You know, and sometimes I would run to the back and try
Yeah.
to motivate, and like the little end is just slinking the
Yep.
whole time
Oh,
because
yeah.
all their little everyone's
It's
little
hard.
legs just run, and then they catch up, and it slows, and so you're slinking.
Yep.
And so those guys in the back are pretty much sprinting our
The
whole
whole time.
walk.
Yeah.
And
That's how it goes.
Okay,
That's
so
how it goes.
all right,
Yeah.
I don't feel your pain, but I've seen it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I got the stride.
Thanks for telling me. I'm short. But yeah, so those were the 2 runs were what I was most worried about,
Yep.
right? I wasn't even worried about my 2-mile time because I'm like, it's just 2 miles. I'm
You
going
could
to give it all.
sprint that if you have
I
to.
just saw the fastest guy. I'm just like, I'm going to attach myself to his hip, and I'm going to try to stay there as best as I can. So that's how I got that.
It's been my
12.
strategy for a
It's
lot of
like,
times.
Yeah. So the run happens, and, obviously I don't know how far we're running or what time it is. I just knew if you don't make it, they send you to what we call the tent city. So you don't live in the barracks anymore. You live in these outdoor tents that they have set up
Why?
because you just got dropped, right?
Oh, so that's the drop platoon.
Yeah.
Do you get to come back or no? Is that it?
Well, they will tell you what they'll do an out processing with these guys, and they will let them know whether they want to invite them back or not.
Okay, so it's up to them.
It's up to them, right? But what happens when you get stuck in stuff like that? You do details, right?
Oh.
Some of the details are cleaning the shitters.
Yep.
So I told myself, I'm not cleaning the shitters. So every time I slow down on the run, I'm like, bro, you can't be cleaning the shitters. And I just started running again.
Isn't that hilarious? It's whatever
Dude,
motivates you.
that was my motivation.
Hey.
It's like, hey, because I knew, like, once I'm past this, there's nothing else that's going to stop me in selection. Like, I was only worried about those 2 runs.
And so you crushed them.
Well, I mean, clearly I crushed it. I found
barely
out.
made it.
Yeah, I found out at the end of out processing. I found out how I didn't. So we'll go over that in a second. So I didn't get dropped in the gate week.
Okay.
So I was like,
You were
cool,
pretty excited.
man, we're good, man. So the second week is all about land navigation. You'll do a couple of days. So, it's in the military, it's in the Army. So for people that don't know, everything in the military, they can't just test you on that. They have to teach you that, and then they will test, right? So they will give you a couple of days of like, hey, here's how you do land nav, right? Essentially, they're using that to also put more miles on your feet while you have your ruck on you. So it's a strategy that works out both ways, right?
Got it.
So after that, you do 2 nights of land nav.
So land nav is for everybody listening because we a lot of
Yeah.
civilian listeners.
Yeah,
is
true.
land navigation.
Yep.
Which can make or break you over the simplest shit. Usually in the Marines, how we would do it, they'd have these ammo cans on like a T-post scattered through, and you have a compass
Yep.
and a map. And once you learn the class, then you just go.
Yep.
I mean, and you want to talk about dudes getting lost.
Yep.
I mean, they're shutting down bases trying to find guys because they're so far off track. But so land nav is one of those things for like country boys is pretty simple, and then for some people it is like trying to
absolutely
do
hard.
physics,
Yep.
and they cannot grasp the true north and
Yep.
it just so that's land nav. So it can
Yeah.
make it sounds
gets a
simple
lot of
sometimes, but
people.
it fucks a lot of people.
Yeah, it gets a lot of people, especially like at the nighttime, right? You don't have nods. You're not allowed to use lights. You can't leave stuff behind, right? Everybody's got that rubber ducky and their ruck.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
So if you lose that, you're
You're out. You're
did
done.
they just walk up and ask you for it? And
Well, when
to
you got to
check?
come back, if you forgot where you left it and you didn't have time to go get it,
You're done.
you're done.
Oh my God! Could you imagine that being your reason?
And the distances you're covering in these are no joke. That you're covering 10K, 12K on these routes. You're going from all the way one corner of the training area to all the way to the other. You're crossing some pretty deep creeks where you're like your water's up to your neck, and you have your pack with you too, right? And they'll just do it. Like my second day of land nav, and they call it the star course. The reason they call it the star course is they make you do one of these numbers, right? So I started up top, went all the way down. My third point was all the way back up. Fourth point was all the way back down. I'm like, is this a joke? It's just putting more miles on my feet, right?
For sure.
Anyways, you have to get 4 points and four. Well, I don't know. I won't say you have to, but there's 4 or 5 points designed for each day. I can't
Okay.
remember if it's 5 or 4. And there's obviously a number they're wanting you to hit at a minimum,
Yeah.
right? So I go out the first day and get all my points. You know, I'm like pretty happy, but they come back. A lot of people already got dropped or quit because you're doing this in the dark, right? There's spider webs all over the place.
Where are you?
Fort Bragg.
Okay.
So it's Camp McCall. Camp McCall is where
Okay.
we do all of our prep course and our selection. And
Okay.
Yeah, so that happens in Camp McCall.
Big ass spiders.
Oh, dude, it's yeah.
You're walking through those in the middle of the
Giant
night.
spiders, giant
Yep.
spider webs. You're just covered in that stuff, and they do controlled burns all the time too.
Mm-hmm.
So you would be walking through stuff. You would think that there's nothing there, and all of a sudden you get poked in the eye with a little stick that's just coming out of nowhere because you didn't see any leaves on it, right? And then there's logs. I legit walked through this field, and I was falling every 2 steps I took because I would hit a log that I couldn't see and fall down. Then get up again, hit a log, couldn't see, fall down again. Because we didn't even have moon the first night, right? So
Oh,
it was
God.
bad. There was 0 light. And a lot of guys quit because in the dark, things got rough.
For sure.
You start seeing and hearing
Everything's
things.
different in the dark. Everything is different.
Yeah. So, yeah, you go get your points. Second day, I got super cocky. I'm like, oh, I am good at this stuff. I'm just not going to pull my compass out at all, you know?
Oh, that's ballsy.
I overshot every single one on my point. I freaked out on the very first one. I overshot, and I came up to my backstop. I'm like, God damn, I overshot it by a lot. I'm like, I should have, because I was like, I should have been at my point by now. So I had to tell myself, like, all right, don't freak out. Let's just pull out the map, go on the side, and see where exactly, if I can locate where I'm at, right? So I started doing some terrain association. I'm like, I am about right here. I think my point is in that direction. Let's start walking that direction. Sure enough, find it.
Really?
Yeah, but then did it 3 more times that same day.
But overshooting sucks because
Oh,
you
it
just put
sucks.
extra mileage on that you didn't have to.
You did, and then, you know, it's if you just lost your point and you don't know where you're at, it's super hard to backtrack now.
And then you're just walking in circles.
Yep.
Damn. So after land nav, what's the next course you're doing at this point?
Yeah, so you finish land nav. Now the last thing is you're doing team week.
What's team week? What's
So
that like?
team week is essentially they will make you into a team. They will give you like anywhere from 12 to 16 guys, depending on how big the class is, right? And essentially team week is they want you to move a certain route with a certain amount of equipment as a team, the best you can do it. I don't know how they run it because, you know, I'm not a cadre there, but I would think, like, that's the situation that I thrive in, right? I'm like, no organization, they don't tell you who's leading.
Yeah.
I see a gap, I'm just going to immediately take the opportunity and
For
be the
sure.
leader. So I just became the leader on both of my team days. You do 4 days of team events, though. And I'm like, all right, let's grab this, and here's the route we're going to take. Let's start moving. And you just brief the cadre, and you start moving.
The cadre is like you're like the rep
He's
that's
just-
with you.
He's just like a lane walker. He's the one
Got it.
observing you. He's
Yep.
the one grading you, but he would hardly ever say anything. Sometimes he will stop you and smoke you because you're not doing something. You're doing something so fucked up, or someone is,
Okay.
that people are gonna get stopped.
Okay.
And the thing is, like, if you make it back in a certain time, you get to eat at the chow hall. If you don't, then you get to eat your MRE.
So that's your motivation.
Yeah, and you don't know that. You figured that out after
Okay.
like the first day. So it's like, oh, okay, we should probably.
Are these like team drills where you're like having to cross things and work as a team, where like people are holding planks, and like is it just that type of scenarios where you can pass, but the majority of people it's not a pass fail. It's more of a frustrating and seeing how you're working together.
Yeah, so it's about seeing how well are you working together and how creative you are at moving this equipment. Because you can build apparatuses if you want, like,
Okay.
hey, I'm gonna build let's build this cart and we'll move stuff around.
Got it.
Or hey, we don't have that much space. Let's just grab shit and start moving, right? What they're looking for is like if the guys are pretending that they have work versus like they're actually doing work. And I don't know if that's
Okay.
the only thing we're looking for, but it shows you like who are the pretenders. Like, you know, the whole classic deal. Oh, I'm helping too. I'm lifting, and they just got a hand on there. Versus like, hey, I'm gonna take my fair share of this, and I'm actually gonna help us
Got it.
progress.
So it doesn't matter what you guys are actually doing. They're just evaluating the
They're-
individual and how they're working as a team. Because obviously in an SF unit, that's I feel like that is
Yep.
the core value of Green Berets and up, even
Yep.
Rangers and up, like it's all built off of teams. So
Yeah,
while you're-
how are you working with others?
So they're
right?
watching
If you
everything.
can see where inefficiencies are, point that out, right?
Yep.
Or find a solution. Are you the guy that's just gonna complain, right? Or are you the guy that's just gonna like constantly look for work?
Got it.
Because that's a big thing on team too. Like if you just on any teams, you get down there and you're just other people are working and you're just sitting on your ass. Like that's not a good sign.
Yep.
Like, you should
Are there a
find
lot of
work.
big egos in this, or is everybody pretty much on the same page at this point? Because I mean, this is a pretty alpha driven field. You know, like think about it. Like guys like you that are like, I'm gonna be a Green Beret. I mean, they're all pretty like alpha dominant dudes. I would feel like, but like, is there a lot of clashing? Is everybody trying to take that leadership position, or is everybody kind of just falling into their role?
It's funny, man, because you say that. Most people actually want to follow. Most
Really?
people do not want to lead. And people don't like conflict either.
Interesting.
You know, there's only a few people will step up. And if you just were the first one to step up and do something, a lot of people, it just falls in place. At least in my experience, that's how I've seen. Like, I didn't see anybody clashing with me. It could be a different experience in different groups, right? Maybe everybody that was with me in both of those teams kind of just like, hey, man, cool. There's also your leadership style, too. Leadership doesn't mean you just have to yell at people, right? Because a lot of people are like, hey, you're in charge, and all you want to do is just effortlessly or mindlessly just start yelling at people, and you're not really helping
Well, that's because
solve a problem.
I
Right?
feel a lot of people, especially come up in the military with shit leaders. I was a firm believer that yelling wasn't leading. And I learned that at a very early age because I had incredible leaders. And that would sit you down and be like, this is where we fucked up. This is how we correct it. And then you get the shit. I would always categorize them as shit bags because they would just scream at their platoons all day. And then when I became a platoon sergeant, I addressed all of my guys as if they were men.
Right.
I can't have you stunting motorcycles.
Yep.
We can't be sneaking women. Like, you know, even though like I should have been chewing their ass. But that's how I always talked to my guys, and it became a point where I had other sergeants, corporate, whatever, coming from other platoons to come to me. It wasn't I was soft. I mean, dude, I would haze the fuck out of my troops and all that shit. But when it came to my guys, like I would talk to them, and then I would have other guys from other units come over and be like, hey, dude, how do I handle this? I can't take this up because it's just going to get, and you know, there's ass chewings that are deserved.
Yep, there's a time and place for screaming. Exactly.
Yes, but there's leaders that don't know how to actually lead because I feel like, I don't know if it's an insecurity thing or whatever, but they just yell. And you never accomplish anything when that happens. People turn off immediately.
Exactly. The two things that I've noticed in my experience is like, if you as a leader is incompetent, you're going to yell at people, or you're going to throw regulation in other people's face, which most of them starts with, your uniform isn't right? Yeah. Because that's all the value you can add, because you don't know anything else about leading or the job at all. So that's a very dead-on giveaway from the get-go of
exactly.
Hey, if you're gonna talk to me about uniform, like there's things that you're ignoring that you should be focusing on.
If this is your biggest problem and stress right now, like you shouldn't be there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you finished team week.
Yeah. So you finished team week after 4 days of that, and throughout every week, there's people that quit, right? And then there's people who get dropped at the end of the week or during the week because they did something wrong, lost a piece of equipment, didn't show up on time, or integrity violation or something else, right?
So how many people are you losing a week roughly? So what did you start with?
We started out with 300 guys, and we finished with just under 100. Yeah. And this was a class full of studs. Like the class I was in, everybody was like, we had guys that were football coaches. Like straight up studs.
You started over 300 and ended under 100.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. In a class that was like full of stellar
and how long
performers.
was this class?
What do you mean?
How long was the class? I mean, this period of when you lost that many people, how long was that?
It's throughout the whole length of the course, 23 days.
So in 23 days, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Or you would say 21 actual working days. There's like
Got it.
admin stuff too. So once you're done with team week, right, at this point you've had 100 some miles on your feet under a rock the whole time, right?
How's your hip feeling at this point?
Didn't even phase me.
Okay.
Didn't phase
What
me
about
at all.
your back that the doctor brought up? Never heard anything from it again?
Not during selection. I've had issues afterwards. But yeah, went through all of that, and then once you're done with team week, the last thing you do is the final ruck.
Okay.
So you show up again at a certain time with all the equipment that they tell you. And this one, again, just like anything else, you don't have your watch on you. They don't tell you how long it is. They just give you a start time and you just leave. And the way they track your time is like everyone's got a chip on their boot.
Okay.
That's how they're, and then during land nav, they give you a GPS too so they can come find you. But that's how they also know when someone busts boundaries. Like I busted boundary, but I was smart enough to come back in.
Yeah. So they're tracking you.
Yeah, so I got 3 points on my second day of land navigation, and I had 30 minutes left, and I was like, I can get this point. So I started running. And of course, I just started screaming, running through this draws and everything, getting lost, drifted quite a bit, and then come out on the other side, lost as hell. I'm like, oh, crap. And we're out right at time where, event is done. If I'm getting caught outside the boundaries at this time, like, I am dropped.
No shit.
So I just figured out where I'm at, turned around, and started running.
You ran back in the boundaries?
Oh, I ran back in the boundaries out to the road, pretending like I never left the boundary.
They were tracking you the whole time?
I'm sure they saw that,
Yeah,
unless it just got missed. But I
Yep.
think it's just because I was still in and they saw me at the right spot where I
Yep.
should have been picked up. Probably
Got
didn't
it.
say anything.
So you made it.
Yeah.
So after you lose all these guys throughout land
Yeah.
nav, through team building, everything else, or team training,
Yeah.
what's the next step?
Yeah, so
after
the
that?
last thing you do is this last ruck.
The
right?
last ruck,
The
okay.
last ruck, right? Nobody knows how far it is. We're guessing it's about like 30 some miles is what you do. Yeah. You're walking forever.
30 miles? So you're doing this in 2 days, a day and a half, or is this all done like sun up to
No.
sundown?
You start at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then you're finished like sometime during the day.
30 miles.
Yeah.
So that's a tempo. I mean,
Yeah.
you're moving.
Yeah, you're moving. So, and they will
So you
mess
pretty
with
much
you too.
jogged like the
So-
whole 30 miles.
You don't know how far it is, So there's they have cones set up throughout the course, and you're just following the cones, right?
Mhm.
And they will play tricks with you. They will bring you back towards Camp McCall, and you'll be like, "Oh, it's done. We're coming back towards the gate," and you get close, and they will turn you back around.
No.
I have seen grown-ass men cry and sit down and be like, "Hey, man, do you know when this is going to end?" I'm like, "Fuck, do I know, man? I'm just a candidate just like you."
I know what you know. Get up.
Like, let's get up and keep moving. Yeah,
You know morale is
but
broke at that point.
Yeah, because your feet are hurting. You've been on your feet
For
for like
sure.
3 weeks straight, and the prep course before that, you've
I mean,
had that
you're just
tick.
beat down.
Yeah, we call the ruck the tick. You have that tick on your back at whole time.
Tick, it just stuck to you.
Yeah, team week you had even more weight on you because you were carrying all these, poles and weight and stuff, everything else that you
Damn.
had to carry. So at this point, like you're like 150 some miles in, maybe more. I don't know what the actual math is, between land nav and everything else.
That would be interesting to find out.
But people drop out on that, 'cause
last
people,
ruck, huh?
People think like, I've made it through all this. I think I've made it, and then they will slow down on that last one, and then either quit because they're playing fuck games by bringing you back in and then sending
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you back out, or just didn't make good time. And then the next day, they will go look through everyone's paper. Oh, there's also a psych test and like some other,
Yeah.
comprehensive test way at the beginning. And, some people get dropped for that too.
Okay, I can imagine.
People who don't know how to fill out forms.
Yeah, right?
That's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, you finish all that, and then, the next day, whenever they're done with the results, they will bring everybody out. Because there are people that they're still doubtful about, and the board will look at them. And
So you can still get voted out at that point? Like peered out?
I forgot about the period. Yeah, you're doing pink slips and blue slips all the time as well.
What's a pink and blue slip?
So pink is bad and blue is good. So you do peer evals
on each other.
on each other.
Do the
Yeah.
people know who's voting against you? Is this like some Temptation Island shit where they like walk up and
No.
open and you're like,
No, they don't.
Cash, you
Yeah.
got voted off the island. Like you're no
Yeah.
longer in teams anymore.
No. You find that out in other parts of the qualification
Okay.
course after selection. Be like, hey, you are getting kicked out because of peer review. And they might do that in outs processing, but they don't tell the selection guys there.
Holy
Like,
shit. So you could be doing everything right and you get into it one dude and you get a couple pink slips and you're out?
That could happen. Yeah.
Damn.
Sometimes it depends on what the pink slips were and how many there were. Sometimes they
Okay.
don't really matter. Sometimes cadre will see that as like that's not true and just toss it out.
Okay.
They're pretty good at telling it's a personal issue, not like an individual issue.
Got it. Okay.
But the board sits down and they will look at, hey, these are the guys that are in the gray. We don't know if they're going to make it or not. And here's their results. And they will review them. The board, like, you know, I'm sure some senior ranking people are in there and they will decide, oh, we'll push these guys through versus not these guys. So once that is all said and done, you'll have your last formation that will separate guys out. You know, if I call your roster number, go to the right and go to the left. And at selection, you like start, you know,
is this the guys that made it?
because you look at the guy, you're like, man, that guy's a stellar dude. If I'm
Why
not in
isn't
that,
he in my group?
yeah, exactly. If I'm not in that formation, I'm probably dropped.
So now you're a little panic setting in.
Yeah.
So what were the two groups?
They were just separated into two groups and then sent one group out to the back and then kept our group here. And then they go like, okay, if you guys haven't figured this out yet, you guys have all made it.
So that other group didn't?
They didn't, yeah.
No. And how many? So in that group of
Yeah.
you standing there, how many?
Like less than 100, yeah.
What do you
Like
what,
out of the class of 300.
like 50, 75? Like what do you?
We were pretty close to 100. Like
Oh,
I
okay.
said, we had a class full of stellar dudes.
Okay,
like,
okay.
This class was very competitive.
So you guys lost over 200 people though.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And I'm like I keep saying, like this class was very good. So even we lost that many guys on top of that, it was shocking.
So what was that? So technically you're still not a Green Beret, right? Or
No, you just
passed
you just got your permit to go do the qualification course to actually become a Green Beret if you pass the qualification course. This is just they
dude.
assess you and they say that they think that you're good enough to actually start the training.
So you obviously passed.
Yeah.
So now you're like, okay, thank God I can start the training.
Yeah.
What was that like?
So the training is long. It's changed since then,
Okay.
but you do it in several different phases. One of them is just like an orientation. You do some details and stuff, and you kind of learn about the job. The second one is small unit tactics. That's where we see the most iteration coming out of.
Okay.
But that's also our bread and butter. So like you have to be really good at it. So think about Ranger School and guys going to Ranger School. It's condensed in 6 weeks, and a lot of focus is on making sure your tactics are good. Because
Are you doing like, what do you mean tactics? Like shoot
assaults,
houses?
right? No, so you're not really doing a lot of. So we don't do anything fancy in our qualification course.
Okay.
We get really good at basics.
Got it.
Everything they're teaching is pretty basic stuff, but you're talking about
Weapons, everything like that?
Say what?
Weapons, everything like that?
So that comes in MOS section.
Okay.
So here, like, yeah, you know machine gun stuff, but you're doing you'll do a couple of days of flat range, but the rest of it is all blanks. Essentially, the idea is the small unit tactics essentially teaches you how to run teams to go, not our teams, but like group of people to go conduct assaults and raids on objectives.
What is the purpose, what is the sole purpose of a Green Beret?
So, though doctrinally, how we're defined is we're the force multiplier. So we are supposed to be able to do guerrilla warfare, unconventional warfare, right? That's our bread and butter, which essentially means we can go into a denied territory, find a group of people who are the resisting force or the fighting force, organize them, train them to then go against the actual enemy, whether that's of the state, to the people, whatever we want to support, we can support that.
And I see I've never asked anybody that
Yeah,
question.
so
Like,
that's
what
why I
is-
say when the mission is so different, special operations teams or special forces teams are detachments. They're supposed to be able to survive on their own, right? Not only survive on their own, but figure out how these people that they're training are going to survive, and then employ them, whether it's in our interest or if we're helping a country and it's their interest. Whatever we're trying to support, be able to support that. So that's how it all started. That's what we were doing in Vietnam, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we tried to do in other places, like when we went in Syria, like we trained another force and used them to help us win that war while we called in airstrikes and did other things, right? So it's like,
That's
instead of
fascinating.
bringing our big army in and roll in, hey, what other force can we train and utilize to have impacts on the
So the
battlefield?
Green Berets are in these countries months, if not years, prior to anything really popping off, already trying to...
So, yeah, without getting
Train
into too
military.
much, yeah, you have to have avenues and,
So you guys are doing a lot on your own when nobody even knows we're in countries.
yeah. And there's also like stuff that guys like we have direct action missions as well, where we're doing things unilaterally, right?
So, for my ignorance
Yeah.
as a Marine, so are Rangers, what's the units that are kind of going in and snatching and grabbing? Is that Green Beret or is that more Rangers going in?
It depends on the target, right?
Okay.
So back when Afghanistan and Iraq was going on in full swings, like
Yeah.
leashes were off from everybody, right? Whoever were kind of force we can find to go implement the mission, we'll go implement the mission,
Okay.
right? But you got to know what kind of mission and what kind of target it is, right? So if it's a hostage rescue type deal, right, or if somebody of very high value, you'll see tier 1 teams come in and do it, right? Because some of those intel resources, all that stuff that's required, that all belongs in their hands, right?
Got
they
it.
have access to all of that. They have the
But
expertise in
that's
that.
somebody that they're trying to gather computers, paper, everything that comes along with that individual.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So, and it could be like same thing for our targets too. Like, so if we were to do a unilateral hit in our area for a target that we're going after, we'll do the same thing too. It just
Got it.
depends what the target is and what kind of
Makes
permissions
sense.
exist. Because you could be fully equipped to do things, but you may not have permissions. Another unit figures out a way to get permissions because they sit on a different echelon, right?
Got it.
So Rangers missions is a lot different too. Usually they will get attached to the unit or us and like help us do that, or they will go in and do seizures of airfields and stuff. They're not designed to go like, hey, you're gonna do hit on this one house.
Got
now,
it.
have they done it? Absolutely, because
yeah.
like I said, the heat of the things, like whatever hands we can get on, but the way the forces, the way these different specialized units are designed, they all have different missions that they're supposed
Got
to
it.
do. Yeah.
So you go through actual training now, right?
Yeah, so yeah.
What was your MOS?
Yeah, so you get to,
Because everybody thinks, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no.
Everybody thinks when you make it to becoming a SEAL or Green Beret or Delta that you're just some trigger puller. But there's
yeah,
there's medics, there's
Right.
comm guys, there's terps. I mean, everybody has their own
Right.
specialty in a way. Everybody's learning things, but everybody just thinks like, oh, I was in SF unit. But there could be motor T guys that are attached to SF, that
Yep.
are SF
Yep.
or SEAL and they're motor T. So what was moving into
Yeah.
it? Where did you have a specific thing that you were going for, or were you just happy to be there and you're going to take anything?
No, so there's 4 different military occupational specialty MOSs that you can pick from coming out of the Q course, right?
Okay. Is there more that we need to go over this Q course? Like, did you go through SEER school and stuff?
Yeah.
Can we talk about SEER school?
Well, we can talk about it a little bit. Yeah,
All right,
it's
cool.
not that big of a
All
secret.
right. We just had another guy on that
Yeah.
that he brought up. He was talking some SEER stuff. I have a buddy of mine that I'm trying to get him on. He's top tier guy, and
Yeah.
he's got some crazy SEER
Yeah,
stories.
there's
so,
different levels of SEER school.
What did you go
too.
through?
We did CRC is what we run,
which is on the scale.
which is up there.
Yes. Did they do joint manipulation at this one?
No.
Are you lying?
No.
He's lying. This dude's lying. I've heard some shit, dude. I can ask questions.
I don't know how much detail I can get into that, but
As
no.
much as you want. So
I don't know where the line is.
You're good. You're good.
All right, so let's talk about the MOSs, right? So there's 5 total that you can get coming out from the Q course.
Okay.
The first one is called the Alpha. That's the officer. You have to be an officer to come in as an officer. You don't get to pick.
Okay. Okay.
You'll be an officer. Then there's 4 on the guys level, right? The enlisted guys. Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo. So Bravo is the weapons sergeant.
Okay.
Now you'll say, well, everybody shoots the gun, right? These guys are proficient in like heavy weapons, rockets,
The big boy toys.
foreign weapons, so these guys know all of them. So they go through when they go through their military occupational training, like they're shooting all different kinds of weapons.
Foreign and domestic.
Foreign and domestic, small
everything.
and large, right? They know
God,
how to
that's a pretty
operate
cool
every single
gig.
one, break every single one out, right? Some of them are going to listen to me like, oh, I don't remember any of this. You're inflating this. No, our guys, especially the guys on my team, were just stellar guys, man. They're just so good at what they do.
That sounds like a pretty badass job to
Yeah.
learn every weapon,
Yeah,
foreign and domestic. Get to learn how to shoot it, disassemble, assemble.
yeah.
So you know your shit. At
Yeah,
that. Okay.
so that's Bravo. Then there's Charlie, which I was a Charlie. And we're supposed to be engineers,
Okay.
right? And that includes demolition, construction, targeting, and then our staff. Since we are a detachment, every guy has a staff function, so we can run on ourselves, right? So the Bravos are doing training and everything.
Yeah,
Charlies
yeah,
are
yeah.
sustainment and everything, logistics, right? So if we're moving from country to country or training places, like, hey, I'm in charge of all the equipment that's going with us, like how we're going to survive, food, water, and all that stuff, right? So fuel, all that kind of good stuff. Then we have the medic, and they kind of do like the payroll and stuff. Is kind of like their, not that they're running the payroll, but like making sure guys are
they're doing admin work and
admin
shit.
work for
Okay.
like HR type roles, right? But then he's also the medic of the team,
Yep.
right? And then you got the Echo, who's like the communication sergeant, right?
Got it.
So he knows all different kinds of radios and then conventional and unconventional ways of like making communications.
And that's what makes up a SF team?
So you got those 4.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 of each on team, so that's 8 guys right there. You got a captain, that's 9, and then we got a Zulu, who's a team sergeant. So essentially a guy that has been in one of these
Positions
positions.
or all at some point.
yeah, and then gone up the chain and become
So that's your platoon sergeant in a way.
yeah.
Okay.
The team only got 12 guys, right? So
Yeah.
and then so you're like squad, I guess. Then you got Fox, which is our intelligence sergeant. Also has to be a Green Beret. Also has to come from one of these 4 MOSs. So you do your time as that, and then you can go to the Fox course, be an intel sergeant, come back to a
So
team.
the intel sergeant's the one that's going to the COC, getting all the briefs, bringing everything, all the info
Yep.
that you guys are collecting, bringing it back, and then getting his information and bringing it back to you guys. So that's the
developing
the Fox.
target
Okay.
practice. Yeah, because we'll talk about it,
Yeah.
about the mission and how they play in a second here too. And then we have a warrant officer, also enlisted Green Beret, that went the warrant route and is now an assistant team commander on the team.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
So
So
those
you have an
are the-
officer and a warrant officer.
Officer and a
Okay.
warrant officer, yeah. So they're supposed to kind of like keep each other in check.
Yeah.
So that's how a team, SF team, is laid out.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question. I mean, I don't know your deployments and things like that.
Yeah.
But as a member of an SF unit,
Yeah.
and you get a mission to
Yeah.
go to some foreign country, is it kind of scary? Like, can it be? Like, you got to go to some foreign country, and there's guerrilla warfare going on, and there's 12 of you going into a country, and there's times where a unit can be, that you're the only U.S. individuals in these countries. I mean, is there ever a time where you're like, fuck, man, like, we're on our own?
Not in my time frame, because places I've been to Syria, Jordan, and then I've done couple other things in other places. One of the other places, it's training and engagement, nothing
Yeah.
fancy. But it's not like we started a guerrilla war there, right? So
Yeah.
I wasn't in that spot.
Yep.
But I'm sure from the guys' perspective, that like old school guys that have been out, they probably had that thought.
Yeah.
To better answer your question, like the way the mission sets work for us is like very broad missions. Like, hey, we're going and our mission is to do counter ISIS, right? That's just it. That's the biggest thing you get, and now it's up to the team to figure out the area that we own. Because like, so if we talk about Syria, I don't know if you've looked at the map for Syria, but like we own pretty much, or where we operate is the east of the river.
Yeah. Yep.
Right, and that's divided into 4 or 5 different sections. And the spot that I was at, our team owned all of that section, right? So
12 of you have your own AO, which is like, what, a region in the country?
yeah.
What are you guys operating out of when you're there? Are you in
So-
land cruisers? You in military vehicles or what?
Funny you say that. So we had both. We had military vehicles like the MRAPs and stuff, right? And then we had the land cruisers. When we first got there, the way it was set up, we were rolling in these big, what do they call it? The RG13s. Is that what they call them? I can't remember. This is big, beefy things. And the roads are just not meant for them. Like, these are heavy, fat, wide vehicles, and we had one vehicle just break the road and bury the tire in the road.
No shit.
I gotta find a picture, yeah, but it just went straight in. And that was it, because like we were telling for the longest time, like, hey, the threat is not justify us to roll in these big things. We're knocking off electricity wires, we're causing trouble to the local population. So instead of building,
okay.
relationships, we're breaking relationships, because now we're causing problems, right?
Are you guys operating out of a base? Or
We were, outstation, so it's called Green Villages, where I was at in Syria.
How close to the border were you guys?
Border to
I mean, you're on
Iran.
the east side.
So we were the southernmost part of the east side.
Okay.
So we were on that Abu al-Kamal border.
Okay.
So we could go down. It's like 4-hour drive. We're pretty close to that.
Okay.
We actually were there for some stuff.
I can imagine, yeah.
But that's when we were like, draw the line in the sand. It's like, hey, we've had 2 vehicles go down, and it just puts us in a bad spot. So
And you guys aren't taking like serious engagement or anything, correct?
No,
or?
it's gone way down, right?
Yeah, so what's the point of driving around this thing?
There was just like, oh, the IED threats. I was like, well, it just doesn't make sense. We haven't seen a single one.
Okay.
You know, there just hasn't been, like, there's a report going on, but there's no evidence to support the report. So like, let's scale that back down.
Yep.
And I would rather have something that we can maneuver in when we need to than being these things get stuck all the time and then paint a target on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we configured. So I was also the long range mobility guy. So I took charge of all the vehicles. So we then swapped out everything that we need to swap out and make those vehicles like ready for the mission. So we just
Comm gear and all that stuff.
Comms and, like, you know, once you do long range mobility stuff, you get really good at realizing you need to know where stuff belongs in your truck, and you have to standardize that, because when you go on these ventures, start tossing things in, and
Yeah.
when something breaks out, now you're digging through stuff to get to things that you need, right? And that was my biggest pet peeve. And like, the trucks have to look a certain way, things
Yeah.
have to be in a certain way, and if you're in charge of your truck, you need to know where everything is. And
So you set it up. So was it like med kits? Like everything was the same in every vehicle.
Yep. So like, I'll obviously take input from the medics, like, hey, what do we need, and how do you want it? And
Yep.
then dedicated medical
Exactly.
vehicles as well, right? Hey, where's the recovery stuff going to go, right? And here's how the recovery is set up in everything. Because my teammate and I have changed a tire under nods in less than 10 minutes, and the previous record was like about 30 minutes, like on a trail.
Really?
So I was like, it's because we knew where our stuff was,
Yep.
right? And small things people don't think about kind of add up.
It's seconds.
Yeah. So, and you know, I was fortunate. The truck that I was in with the two of the teammates that I rolled with, we just had our truck laid out pretty neatly, and we just knew, like, because in our truck we carried a saw, a 240, Gustav, and charges if we need to blow things up. We had a grenade launcher.
Were these the handhelds, like the?
Yeah.
What was the chambered one? The Mark M. The one that you would rotate and had the 8 cylinder.
We don't carry
big,
those.
heavy
We're
piece
not
of shit.
SEAls.
Are you guys the little individuals that would
Individuals,
pop open?
they were
Those
great.
were so cool.
Yeah.
I remember
we got
first
little
time.
new sights for them too, and they're awesome.
First time I saw one, I was like, "What the fuck?" The
Yeah.
M28. I'm gonna have to Google that one because I had to carry that thing, that heavy piece of shit, dude. It was almost. I'm like,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
M32.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
probably
The
what it is.
M32 grenade
I
launcher.
am terrible at the military. Like,
So am I.
Yeah.
I remember it because it's ingrained because I have scars on my hip from this thing bouncing on me, and it just was the biggest, heaviest piece of shit.
Yeah.
That's why I had to ask. I'm like, there's no way you guys are running that thing.
Yeah, and then I had my sniper rifle on the back of the truck as well.
What was it?
So I was carrying an AMRAD. It's Mark 22.
Yeah.
But yeah, I carried this bag because we were driving through a lot of urban
You
areas.
guys are
Like,
rolling heavy.
dude, we don't. So that was the biggest thing in Afghanistan too, right? As teams came in, people didn't want to mess with the Green Berets because they were always like, "Don't mess with the bearded ones," and it was the Green Berets that started that. Because
Were you allowed to have a beard over there?
I'll talk about that in a second. And that was the thing. It was like, these guys roll heavy and they don't hesitate. So if
Yeah.
you shoot at them, they are gonna fucking come with everything they got, and they've got a lot. You
Yeah.
know, so that was the biggest thing.
And air,
Yeah.
and drones, and everything else.
Yeah. So teams just get you, and I think it's good because you always got to be prepared for everything that you need.
Yeah.
You can get into, right? So we were traveling through a lot of urban areas, so I never wanted to not have my M4 and my pistol on me, right?
Sure.
So I was just running a shorty with an EOTech. Normally I won't do it in a desert environment, but like, I have a sniper rifle. Like, if I need range, like, that's what I'm gonna go to. But the minute I get out of the truck, I grab my bag, move to my position, and then I can deploy my rifle. But up until then, if I need to engage anything, like,
Yeah.
I've got my M4.
I
and
mean, if you're in a
pistol.
vehicle, M4 is the way to go, anyways.
Yeah, it's like you're driving through urban areas.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not.
You're not trying to clear
What am I
house
going to
with a
get
long
into
gun.
that exactly?
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to shoot trying to get into scope, right? So you just got to think about things like that. But yeah, so it was a huge contention without getting into too much detail. But personal issues in leadership led to, and this is not just our immediate leadership, like several levels above, to like, no more beards in any deployed environment.
Oh,
This is across the board that
Yeah,
came
yeah.
out, and it's a shame because these guys have lived this life, right, and they've all had beards. They have had beards in time when they really didn't need them because things didn't exist to the level they exist now.
Yeah.
There's active threat of collections on operators, and we're willing to like give our identities, but at the same time want to talk on the other side of the fence, be like, oh, we care about your online security and cybersecurity and all that, and your identity. But then you're coming out here, we're in a deployed environment in a combat zone, and you're telling us you're gonna shave and put your uniform on with your name tag, while we have active threat of there's collection going on in the guys.
Because you guys have a price on your head over there.
I think that depends time to time.
I mean, there's certain units in certain areas.
Of course, people want to know where the soft guys are, right?
For
Because
sure.
why won't you want to hit bigger targets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if there's adversaries, like, to me, it's just like, hey, we know the technology exists today, and we know there's threats that we have credible info on, intel on. Then why are we letting personal issues get in the way of like, hey, you're gonna shave because my feelings got hurt, I felt disrespected, so everyone's gonna shave. It's like, justify that versus what the mission is, and why are we letting our guys' identity.
That's the military,
go
though,
out,
man.
right?
That is the military.
And that's where it's like, okay, where's the leadership in this, right? If you can't put your personal grudges away, explain to me the reasoning behind in a combat deployed environment, a soft unit will not have their beards.
Yeah.
Right. So we still grew them as much as we could, but then there was like, and it was like just a show and tell, because all the brass wanted to come out all the time. You got 2-star, 3-star generals coming down to say, well, I was in Syria. And I'm like, why are we here? They can't answer that question. They will just put that question back on you. It's like, well, you tell me why are we here and when we should leave. It's like,
now.
It's like, we can leave wherever.
Leave now. We can be ready to go tomorrow.
We don't have any permissions anymore. Then why are we here?
That's interesting.
And the answer you will hear from everybody, it's the same issue in our government and the military, right? We have people that are making decisions that shouldn't be making any decisions.
For sure.
We have a lot of people just nod their head because they want to please their boss, because they care about their jobs only.
Worried about that next medal and getting promoted.
Exactly, and not what actually looks right. And maybe there's something about filling their own pockets. I don't know about that, right? But you could probably see that too. But if we don't have active permissions from our own government to do anything in these areas, explain to me why we're there, and you're going to justify by saying, oh, our presence is countering anything. If our presence was countering anything, we won't be getting rocketed every other day. We're just sitting targets, and then our hands are tied that we're not allowed to do anything.
Isn't that wild?
And then,
but how does that feel from you? I mean, you've gone through to live this dream, and then now you're in a foreign shithole country, and you're not even supposed to be operating out there. You're just sitting there as a target.
It's frustrating.
For sure.
It's frustrating because there's a group of guys that have given up a lot in their life. It's not just me. There's other guys there, right? And they're sacrificing time away from their families and stuff, right? Risking their lives trying to do a job. And essentially, we're just playing political games. People have their own personal agenda, and they might come out and be like, "Oh, what do you know? You only did this much time." It's like, you don't have to do a whole lot of time to just have some general common sense. Like,
exactly,
we're using same failed strategies that have clearly not worked. Didn't work in Afghanistan, not working in Iraq, not working in Syria. But we're continuing to make same mistakes, and then you want to say like, "Oh, what do you know?" Like you barely did enough time. Like, well, if you're the genius, then why are we making the same mistakes over and over again?
That was one of my biggest gripes in the military, was we call them the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are we not changing anything? Why are we still doing the same shit?
Yep.
Like when I was in Afghan, working in Afghan on contract over there, we would take the same route, the same time, leave the same gate every day.
Yeah.
And then I bring it up, and then like I'm crucified because I'm questioning the seniors, and I'm like, and come to find out, the guy that was running everything was a fucking coastie.
Yeah.
Didn't even have any. He's never even been deployed, and I'm like, you're putting my life in jeopardy, like, and I'm like, and nobody else has noticed. And then once I said, some guys stood up and they ended up changing the routes, but like, I'm like, guys, like, we leave the same time. Every day from the same gate and take the same path. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But it was the dinosaurs, and it was like, this is how it has to be done.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was one of my biggest gripes of getting out of the reason I got out of the military is because like our military, and like, I don't know how to explain this, and I don't know if you agree with me, like, in a way, especially, I'm speaking on my unit in the Marine Corps, it was one of the biggest jokes. Like, nothing ever made sense. The way it was run, and I'm like, how do we function as a military? And this is me as like a young Marine. I'm like, none of this makes any sense. Like, why are we still using ancient, outdated equipment. I'm in this turret where the sights don't even, we have to try to line the sights up with a laser that we're pointing off the side of a building. And I got some asshole standing down there with a panel with marks on it. Like, I'm like, this is what I have to take to war.
Yeah.
Like, I get it, Abrams. I got everything, and everything's gyroed and stabilized. We have rockets. We got really cool tech. But like, there's still so much in the military. We're like, what the fuck? This is from Vietnam. Why are we headed to a new war from technology from Vietnam? And you're telling me we landed on the moon? Get the fuck out of here.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because people that are making decisions for some of these things have no business making those decisions,
and
right?
that's it, dude. That's exactly it.
We have these vehicles that we're using now. They shut down the contract for the Humvees, and funded this. I don't know if you looked at those 1.1s that we use.
Yeah, no.
The vehicle out of the box cannot even carry a casualty. So tell me how that's a combat vehicle if it can't carry, and it can't carry a whole lot of load either. So explain to me who approved that and why.
And who got the kickback.
Well, exactly. Well, there's no other reason for approving this otherwise, right? Either you're a complete idiot or you got paid for it, right?
We sit here and complain about. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I was just saying, but the problem is there's zero accountability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happens. Look at Afghanistan, right? You're telling me nobody knew that was going to fall off as quickly as it did? Like, it's common sense, right?
It's all politics, man.
We want to call ourselves cultural experts. It's like, we didn't know it's a tribe culture, and the minute we stopped paying, like, you were going to go to, who would not do that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But there's zero accountability. Same thing with our politicians, right? They can just keep spending our money, but none of them will ever go to jail. Country suffers and they keep filling their pockets.
Our military is just another version of everything that's going on right now in the country.
Oh,
but
100%.
Nobody ever looks at it because, well, you don't. One is as an enlisted, you don't have an opinion.
Yep.
You're a
It
number.
doesn't matter.
So and that's what people don't understand. When you join the military, it doesn't fucking matter. You're a number. And so you go through this career and you're like, all these things to me just never added up, never made sense.
Yeah.
But now looking outside in, all of our military is a trickle down factor of what's going on in Congress and with our government
100%.
right now. It's all corrupt. It's all political. I'm not saying like these battalion sergeant majors and battalion colonels, but
it's the brass way above
them 100%. Like I worked for a General Waldhauser. He was the 1st Marine Division general, and he was on when Afghan was really kicking off. I was his color sergeant. I briefed him every single morning of wounded in action, killed in action, where I had a map and I on a big poster board, and I would walk in every morning with him, and I would brief this guy, and he wouldn't take one note. And I would walk with him all the way down the hallway, and we'd go in this room and had this giant oval desk. I mean, the desk was as big as this whole entire office.
Yeah.
And there's just brass around it. And he would give my brief that I spent all morning writing, all the grids to every single person that was hit, every ID, and he'd brief. But this guy was such a genius. But then some of the decisions that I'm seeing that are getting passed down, I'm like, where is it coming from?
Right.
Like we're overseas, we're in Iraq, and you're chewing my ass for something that like doesn't make, like it never made sense to me. And the fact that how it functions and gets by, that's what blows my mind.
Well, there's two things to that, right? From my experience, what I've noticed is most of the officers only have the military education, right? And they've been groomed throughout their career to please their boss, right? Because they can go ahead and try to challenge that or write otherwise. Their boss is going to change that anyways when he reports to his boss.
100%.
It's going to happen at a certain level of time. So they've been conditioned to continuously just nod the head and be like, well, I just got told to do it. Irrespective of where you go, maybe like not JSOC, but wherever else you go, there's not a whole lot of common sense left where people are going to...
Zero, bro.
Yeah.
Zero. Everybody with common sense gets the fuck out of the military.
That's why. Why do you think I got it?
That's why, I was sitting there like, this does not make sense. Like, I'm not doing this forever.
Because you sit there and you're like, explain to me how you got to this decision or why we're doing this. And the answer is like, oh, because we got told to do so. It's like, and you don't think it's your job to like stand up for that, say, hey, this is not right, and here's my recommendation. because we can't call ourselves we're influencers and like we're thinking outside the box if we just fall into the same mentality as the regular army and be like we're just gonna do what we get told to do, right? So I obviously butted heads back and forth quite a few times, and I would still do what made common sense. I wouldn't quit, and like if it's not common sense, I'm not doing it. And
which is crazy.
I will take the charge for that. Whatever you want to, have the consequences, I'll do that. But it doesn't matter if an enlisted guy does that, right? Because you'll just like do whatever you want to do. You as an officer, if more of the officers did that, I think the military will change. Gone are the days when we had good officers. Now most of these officers just want to be another politician.
That's it.
Yeah, and not all are bad. Like, so that's not. I've met some really good ones too throughout my careers. Majors and battalion commanders, but they're outnumbered. They're outnumbered with the guys that are not and girls that are not good.
I taught officers, the heavies, the Mark 19 and the 50 cal, and so I got to see these guys fresh. When we talked about the waiting platoon, they hated that because they would get stuck in all these admin positions all over the base. But anyways, when the platoon would pick up and we'd have them, I watched some of these guys, and they were the coolest guys. Yeah. They're fresh out of OCS or MEPS, or not MEPS, whatever all the officer training schools are, and then we would pick them up to start learning their MOS school now. These guys would be the greatest guys, and then you'd see them in the fleet like a year or two later as some captain. This guy was just a piece of shit asshole. And you're like, what the fuck happened to you? I remember you as some boot-ass lieutenant.
Got indoctrinated.
And it does. And then that's where you're working at Friday at 7 o'clock at night. Looking busy because the officer, the colonel's still here, and then now the platoon sergeant doesn't want to leave because the battalion commander's here. So then the XO's here, and then the platoon, and then it trickles down to then all of a sudden now me as a troop, I'm sitting here busting rust off some fucking
doing nothing
piece
because,
of a gun.
Yeah, you can't leave either
Because now it's all a political game, and they don't want to leave, and they don't want to look bad, or they won't get promoted, and now it affects the whole entire military instead of just like, hey guys, we have nothing to do. It's 8 o'clock on a Friday. Go home.
Yeah, and that takes good leadership to recognize that, hey, I may have work, but I have no use for these guys. Why are they here?
I used to get my ass chewed nonstop because I would send my guys home, especially if we didn't have a class when I was an instructor, and other staffs, NCOs, they would sit there all day on a Friday. Right. I tell my guys, lock up the vehicles. Guns are clean. Yep. Don't answer your phones. Go home. Yeah. And they would be like, where the fuck are your guys at? I'd be like, send them home. Why?
We didn't have anything for
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Right.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here until it closes, but all my dudes at that point have all done multiple deployments. Yeah. A couple of my instructors at Purple Heart, multiple Purple Hearts. Like, I'm going to sit here and make this dude that has gone to war several times. This is supposed to be his break as an instructor. This is your time off. Yeah. But I'm going to make him sit here when we don't even have students till 5, 6, 7 o'clock on a Friday night. No, absolutely not.
People don't understand that we don't have a 9-to-5 job, right?
No.
When we work, we're working 24-hour days. When we're deployed, you're just 24/7 on the clock, man. There's stuff going on. You're away from home. Training, same thing, right? So when you are back and there's not much going on, why are you taking their time away?
Yep.
I think they've paid enough for the job. For what they're getting paid, they've done enough work, know?
I learned that lesson from one of the most incredible leaders that I ever worked with. His name was Master Gunny French. He was the most hillbilly from Kentucky, backwoods Kentucky. Yeah. He had this hardcore mustache that was never within regulations. And for my job, you never talk to like a master gun. Like you didn't even make eye contact like in our job field. Like you're like, oh my, you saw a bunch of metal, you didn't even look. Yeah. So I have to go and work for this guy, and he's one of the most senior grunts in the Marine Corps. He was like the 03 monitor. He ran where anybody that was a grunt, he owned their life. So I had to work directly for this guy. And he sat me down, and he was like, listen to me. If there's time to go home, you get your guys out of my fucking office. Was his exact, because I was the G3 platoon sergeant at this time. He goes, if I see you with your guys here doing nothing, he's like, your ass is mine. And he goes, and if they want to put in for leave and go home on vacations, they will submit it, but will not be approved. Right. And that way he would just tear up their leave. So we weren't. And I was like, oh, perfect. Like, perfect. I'm already that. I thought I was going to have to be fighting this. And so, like, and that's where I learned, like, if it was a Friday, but we had to have somebody there. I had somebody had to monitor something. Right. Cool. There's 7 of you in here. Draw straws or come up with a schedule. So on Fridays when we're able to go home, you guys rotate. So every 7 weeks, you have to pull a actual work day.
Yeah.
And then, but that's how I built this mentality. Like, why are we here?
Yep.
The military's
No.
not going to stop because I send my guys home. But I don't have to sit here and try to prove to these other staff NCOs that my team's better. Like,
Yeah.
I just never gave a fuck. I cared more about my guys
Right.
than my personal
Yeah.
image of trying to get promoted. I think is what it comes down
Exactly.
to. And a lot of guys lose that.
People look at how much time that's getting put in as a gauge for how much work is getting done
Doesn't
instead
matter.
of looking at the output, right? You have to look at the output. You as a leader have only one role. You need to remove roadblocks and make your guys' life more efficient.
As easy as
Yeah.
possible.
If you can make it more efficient for them, that's it. That's all you really need to do. You don't need to count
And then
on how many
morale will
hours.
be up.
Exactly.
If morale's up, your guys will. And that's another thing that I learned early on. Even you could be the shittiest job.
Yeah.
It can be a Friday afternoon, and you got to go bust rust off of 50 cals, right?
Yeah.
That don't even have fucking rust on them, and you know you got to sit there for 5 hours minimum.
Yep.
I would look at my guys, and I had the most belligerent, out of control team you've ever met in your life. These
Yeah.
dudes gave zero fucks about anything.
Yeah.
I got assigned to them because I was kind of the same mentality as a staff sergeant, didn't give a fuck about much. But when I got these guys, they knew, hey, Staff Sergeant Marshall's going to get us out of everything we
Yeah.
can. Hey, it's Friday. You got the platoon's gone training. You got to take over their common areas. No, I don't. I'm
Yeah.
not doing it. Fuck, they should have done it before they left. That's what I do.
Right.
These are our common areas for the week. You know, we were as instructors, we had like the ramp where all of
Yeah.
our vehicles or whatever. I'd be like, hey guys, we're gonna be gone. Make sure common areas are done before we leave.
Yeah.
And they would get it done. But then when it come to me, I'm not gonna force my guys to do that.
Right.
But when I came to my team, boys, I tried. We got to get these done. So and so needs this, and they would look at me and be like, yeah, Roger that. No problem. And they would get it done so fast.
Right.
But I'd watch another team do it, and their staff sergeant would get assigned the same thing, and they're it's bullshit, and they'd be out there clean, and my guys are in and out.
Yeah.
But they knew I've done everything for them to
Right.
get them out of that situation, or get them out of doing some bullshit work,
Yeah.
sweeping the ramp, cleaning common areas, dealing with somebody else's platoon. I did everything in my power and fought for them. So when I would go to them and be like, hey, sorry guys, like there was no getting, they would get it done so much faster because it was a respect thing. I looked out for my guys,
Right.
but then you would have other teams where my guys will do it.
Yeah.
My guys will take care of it for them.
And they're just hating their
And
life.
they hated
doing
them,
it.
and everything took twice as long.
Yep.
Nothing was ever done correctly as best as it could be the first time instead
Right.
of just the morale. Morale is one of the biggest things
it's
that they
huge.
should teach in the military. That's like that only comes, I feel like, that's taught through good leaders is to
Good,
keep the morale up.
Exactly. You can't just tell. So a lot of people get conditioned to the fact that, hey, I'm in the military. People are gonna do stuff because I tell them to, because
That's the shitty
I'm
leader.
in charge. Like, try that strategy somewhere else outside the military. See how that
You
goes.
get punched.
Yeah. So it's like, if you want a better output, you tell guys, you build the morale,
Yeah.
and you find how to excite people about their job.
You
don't
do it with them. As a
Exactly.
leader, that was one of the things that I learned. Like, if my guys had to sweep the ramp, and our ramp was massive,
Yeah.
like, because we had tanks amphibious assault vehicles everywhere. So every time one turned, the rubber rolls.
Right.
So you know how it is,
Yeah.
like in a motor T-lot, pretty much. I would be out there with my guys because, like, that's an extra broom.
Yep.
It's an extra brush. It's an extra weapon being cleaned. It's something else that's going to cut time off of me being there.
Yep.
So my guys always knew, and like that
Yep.
was where it comes. That's where all the good leaders that I always watched, they were always in the trenches with their guys. They
Yep.
were never just sitting there pointing, giving directions. And I deployed with one of the absolute biggest piece of shit leaders I've ever met in my entire life. I actually want to have him on the podcast and call him out because it was that horrible of a
Wow.
person, dude. It was horrible. I've put it out on my social before, and I have everybody from my platoon will just be like, oh, it's so like they know, because this dude was one of the absolute worst human beings I've ever. If you ask my
Yeah.
wife right now if there's one person on this planet that I get a free
That'd be
dibs
him.
on, it's him.
Yeah.
It's
All
that
right.
he was that
huh?
bad. It was
Yeah.
horrible, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible. And I watched everything he did, and it was just blew my mind that he was
Wow.
even in that position.
Wow.
But it all comes down to leadership.
It does, man. We don't have good leaders in the right places today.
How
And
is it in the SF unit? Like
So SF teams, SF as an organization is
Yeah.
a very NCO-driven organization,
Mm-hmm.
right? Once the orders are put down from the battalion commander on what your mission set is, like, the teams get to have a lot of bandwidth of what we want to do. Obviously, there's going to be things that you're going to get dictated, like, hey, you have to do this company level exercise, you have to do this battalion dictated exercise. but you can do a lot. You have a lot of freedom at the team level, and we were fortunate enough to have a very stellar team. When I got to the team, we had some great seniors, and then when our seniors left and our new guys came in, we had fucking great juniors come in. Like, we have guys that are, our senior Bravo, when I got to the team, he was a Sephardic instructor, and just a super smart guy, and he taught us pretty much, the whole, that's our Sephardic is our CQB course. He kind of just taught us that back to back several times, and he was super spun up on like making good decisions. And then my senior Charlie, 18 X-ray. So I'm obviously we also had a team full of X-rays. So
Okay.
you're looking at guys, how we talked about like coming talent straight from the street.
Yeah.
No military background, and he was a stellar fucking senior to be a Charlie. Like,
Really?
he knew his job. He had been to Syria, he had been to Iraq, and he was quick learner. Same thing with, our senior Echo at the moment. And, just down-to-earth guys, super talented. So I got the chance to learn from them. And then I was fortunate enough that two of my buddies from the Q course, one of them I didn't know all that well in Q course, but ended up on the same team as me. And one of them was Marine, and this guy's like super talented. Anything he does, he's probably gonna ace that.
Yeah.
He's just that
One of
good.
those guys,
One of
yeah.
those guys, right? And then the other guy, he's my sniper team partner as well, but he was a former Ranger. So see, he's a Ranger back guy, and both of them are tactically pretty smart, like really smart. So me coming from the outside, I was just lucky that I had people who had, a lot of common sense and knew how to run missions and stuff. So I just immediately just saw the opportunity to insert myself in there and learn from them.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and that kind of become our team's culture, where we would just learn where we lack from others on the team. And people will just go out and do stuff that needed to be done, and no one's like holding anyone's hand or giving anyone any instructions. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of culture we had. Now, not gonna hate on too much on the leadership here. Like, our first team sergeant wasn't that great. So we were unfortunate to like run into something and be like, well, how does this guy even get to this level? But
Okay.
shit happens, right? I don't
Yeah.
know if things change somewhere down the road. But then he also didn't last too long on the team. And then our senior Bravo from that, the instructor guy that was I was talking about earlier, he ended up taking up team.
Can you guys peer people out?
Not on the teams. Well,
So once you're in, that's it, or?
it's not peer, but we have kicked people out. Sometimes you just dig your own grave. So that I've been talking to a lot of people who kind of like ask questions now that like, yeah, I was a Green Beret. Like, before, I didn't really mention it to a lot of people because like it was nobody's business. I have a small circle. Other than that, no one really knows what I was doing in life, anyways.
Yeah.
But now that like I'm open on like social media and everything else too, people ask questions like, and people are so focused on like just getting through the selection and Q course, and I always be like, brother, that's just a starting point. That defines nothing other than that. Yeah, you passed the bare basics, right?
Cool. Like you made it, but you're not. There's so much more still.
Yeah, the journey doesn't even start until you get to the team, and if
That's
you
just the
can't,
tip of the iceberg, then.
exactly. If you can't perform on the team, like, guys will eat you alive. Like,
Okay.
especially in a team like ours, you get there and you can't perform, like, you're out.
What's not performing on a team?
Well, if someone else has to hold your hand, you're not proficient at your job. Like, you don't ask for much. Like, can you do your job, right? Because we're not always going to be in the same spot. We're always shorthanded anyways. You never see a stacked team with all 12 guys. And even if we did, the amount of work that we have on the team, if I have to grab another guy to like, hey, I'm going to have to walk around with you to be able to like get this done correctly, then I'm just taking two guys away from the team when something else could be getting done. And also, when we're downrange, like, we're doing split teams all the time. Most of the mission planning you'll see, like, especially our team was notorious to like, hey, split team this, split team that, because we're just trying to divide and do things more efficiently. That makes sense, right? So if someone has to hold your hand, how am I supposed to trust you to be performing my job and your job in split team?
Makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
So that is the bare basics of that, right?
Because when you're talking about split team, you're literally dividing your team in half. So now he doesn't have
Half
somebody.
or even short, like, because we could do 4. So now it's just teams of 3s or teams of 4s, right?
Now
Depending
that
on
guy
what the
that's
mission
you're
is.
holding his hand all the time, now he's on his own.
Yeah.
Or if he's on the team with the dude you're holding
Yeah.
his hand, now that you're taking
And
two
you're
slots
supposed
away.
to perform your function. So how are you doing that, right?
Got it.
And I get it. There's some learning curve too, but like, you have to show up ready to like work on the team. Like you can't just be like, oh, I
I
can
made
just
it.
wing it, Yeah. And
Makes-
then you have to be passionate about the job too,
Yeah.
because it requires a lot of hours to stay good at it. And if you're going to like not want to train,
yeah.
you're not going to be good at what you're doing, so you're out.
So with you in explosives, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you pretty much. How long was that class or that course?
So the MOS section of
Mm-hmm.
Q course is about 3 months and some change for everybody, unless you're a Delta, because medics go through
Yeah.
almost a year of training for our medics.
Can't imagine.
They're almost like, dude, they do time in hospitals and trauma care and stuff. They're really good medics.
I don't even know if really good medic would even justifies
Yeah.
medics on SF teams. They
Yeah.
are. I've seen some shit, bro. Where
Yeah.
I watched. They put the fucking thing in his throat, and then they had
They're good.
they put a trachea. Like I mean, but it was like he's done this a billion times,
Right.
And where they were sticking and cutting, I was like in the field,
Yeah.
and you're just like, bro, like
Under nods.
yeah, on a helicopter in the back of a fucking MRAP, whatever.
Yeah.
Medics, I would love to sit down and talk to an
Yeah.
SF medic. I would love to.
Yeah.
But so when you're because we had an EOD guy, Cameron, on
Yeah.
that did it. But like, is your school as in depth as an EOD, or are you
So-
just learning how to set charges and pop smoke? Or-
Yeah, so they focus on how to diffuse stuff, right?
Yep.
So what we can do is, so the way you deal with something that you come up on that you don't want to hit, right? You can do a couple different things. You can mark and bypass and report it, so
Okay.
someone else can come take care of it. That will be an EOD. You can come in and we call it blow in place, BIP, right? So
Okay.
we can come in. I can do that, right? I'll just come in and if, hey, we have an IED or something like, do we want to deal with it? If we absolutely have to deal with it, I'll blow it in place and leave, right?
What are you blowing it with?
Depends on what it is, but usually I'll carry C4, so
Just-
that's what I would use.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it's render safe. Render safe is a job that you have to be certified for, and only EODs and even in them, like you have to be certified. Like if this guy with this certification did render safe, then it's render safe. His junior, even though he knows how to do it, he's not certified. He can't bless off on
Got
it.
it.
So that's called render safe.
So with you being a
Yeah.
Charlie in your platoon, which is the
Team.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. I'm brainwashed. Platoon.
It's all good.
So what's your main role? I mean, so let's say we will go out on a mission. Like as
Yeah.
far as demo wise, are you popping locks, doors, you getting in entry, or is this just what's the point?
So
of it?
it depends, right? So when you talk about breaching, right, that comes down to you're going to assault something, right?
Okay.
And all our guys will be trained on how to breach. So that's the biggest part of our SF training too. Like
Okay.
we cross train each MOS. So
Yeah.
so breaching is just not going to be me. Now I've
Okay.
gone through training where if there's a specialized breaching, like I know how
What's
to
a
do that.
specialized? What's considered a specialized breaching?
Well, some of the like heavy duty stuff that has layers to it, not everyone's breaching the concrete wall on the team because they don't really know how to get through it, unless the guys are like qualified on Sephardic
Okay.
and other things, right? There's hardened facility doors, like nuclear facility doors and things like that.
How would you breach a?
Can't.
Fuck. You sure?
Yeah.
How do I reword this?
Yeah. We may even have to cut that out a little bit.
All
but-
right.
Yeah, and then there's like you can do breaching using torches and stuff, right?
Okay.
Some of that is like kind of heavy duty torches, like plasma cutters and things like that. It's called there's one thing called like Broco torch. So we've done because you can't always use explosive, right? And you gotta know what you're attacking to. So
For sure.
when you have to kind of solve the puzzle, like peeling the layers of an onion,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you need to know what explosive actually do, right? It's not just about I'm just blowing a lock or a door,
Yeah.
right? Now you have to like get the science behind it. So we go through a course that covers that.
Are you guys learning how to like put water in like a dip can and put some deck cord around it and pop things like
Yeah.
that, or is that junior shit?
So people do that and they think like it's something
Cool.
fancy or cool.
Okay.
There's no practical application of that. Like,
Okay,
why
so
would
cool.
I
This
throw
is
it on
okay.
a dip can? It's just because it looks cool.
Okay,
and like
okay.
but there's no practical application of throwing that in a dip can.
Oh,
like,
thanks for ruining that
'cause-
dream of mine one day.
Yeah, because now have I done it? Yes.
Yeah.
But there's no point of that because
Okay.
you can just tape things together
So yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. So with these torches, though, this is this like almost like an incendiary grenade, but like on a stick in a way. Like how you're clearly not bringing like a torching kit with you. How is this? How is it? How do you?
No, so for some of the like heavy duty stuff, like you're actually bringing carts and stuff with you,
And like wheeling up like.
wheeling up to this, and usually this stuff is like underground that you're working in. So like you're breathing all this stuff too, so it's not fun to do, and it's
See,
sketchy.
you don't think of that.
Yeah, it's sketchy as hell. Yeah.
What would make it sketchy? Like, give me a
Well,
scenario.
just the gases, and you don't know what kind of gases actually exist down in the environment either. So you have to have certain sensors on you, right? And now you're introducing more gases in the environment. Some
And
of
that
these
can
places,
create a chemical. And,
some of these places may not have ventilations done. You know, if they're just pretty rudimentary.
so hypothetically speaking,
Yeah.
I'm just asking you. Just ask. Where would you be? Like, not you. I'm
Yeah.
just asking, hypothetically speaking,
Yeah.
where would you be underground trying to breach something? Give me a scenario.
You know, like look at Hamas right now, right? They have tunnels dig out. Now, if you have to
shit.
go after them, right? People are building bombs underground, you know, because that's when we started dropping bombs all over the place. People figured out we can't survive on the ground if we need to
We gotta
want to
go
do bad
deep.
stuff. So that's why people started building underneath. So some of these are pretty hardened structures and well developed because they have decided to be down there for a longer time, right? Or they're using
Okay.
elements that cannot be exposed in the outside environment, so they're underneath the ground, right? And again, most of that has to do with security because the bomb is only going to reach so far down.
So, hypothetically
Yeah.
speaking, if you guys were to go in, have things been cleared and there's already like the ground units have already come through, or is this like, hey, you guys got to like find your way into this facility? Here, your door's 3 floors underground. You got to cut these locks and then get whatever info we want out. Is that kind of more of a real world scenario, hypothetically speaking?
Yeah, so that's kind of where like a little bit of mission differentiation, right? We don't get told like, hey, go hit this target, right? We
Okay.
kind of just like, we own the area, so now we identify targets in them. We may get info or target from somewhere else. Now it's up to us
okay.
how we're going to execute it, right? So let's say we are going to go hit a house. We're gonna come in like we know what's in the area for like doors and stuff, so we'll be equipped with the right amount of breaching tools that we need in case we run up to a door that we need to breach.
So when you guys are operating in your AO,
Yeah.
you're on your own. You're there to gather your own. I mean, obviously, do they give you like, hey, this is what's going, or do you do a left seat, right seat with a unit, and then they're with
Yeah.
a team before you, and then they give you the lowdown, and then when you guys are there, is it your job to start collecting intel, getting,
Yep.
I mean, informants in a way, and now you're building.
Yep.
So technically, you can go months without anything if there's nothing really popping off in a unit, or you could just happen to be in a unit where you have ISIS operating and they're building suicide vests, and you're constantly chasing that. So it's a
Yep. So you can, you know, you get to your outpost of wherever you're going to be. You replace the team that was there before you, right? And then now you kind of take over from there, and now you figure out. You can build upon top of what they left you, right? And then, or you can go segue and start digging deeper of things that they may not have looked into, right?
Got it.
Essentially, that's how you start finding and building targets, right? And that's where those, you know, our intel sergeant and warrant come into picture because those guys are trained to like do that stuff and tie things together, find targets for us, so then we can plan and see how we're going to. Obviously, we need to get. Now we're going to go. If we're going to go do a hit, like we have to go get that approved, right? So.
that was my next question.
Yeah.
Are you guys just free for all, or does
So
everything have to get sent up
this-
the chain?
So this is where the permissions come into place, right? So we have an overall mission set. What kind of permissions do we have, right? So the permissions have gone down at this point to we're only doing partner force operations, and we're not gonna accompany the partner force anymore. So we're taking a back seat.
So meaning you're training them, but you're watching when they're
so we're-
conducting the missions.
Yeah, we're watching through the drone feed and stuff like that, right?
How is that?
It sucks.
Well, not being there or just watching it, or all of it?
I mean, I think watching, so part of that is needed, right? Because we don't want to be there forever either. So
For sure.
Um,
But you and I both know it'll never. This is never.
no,
We're never not gonna.
no. The only way you solve that problem is just leave, right? And if we have business need to take care of, we come in and we drop the hammer, and then we leave, and we tell them, you do it again, it's
We're
gonna
just
be
gonna
worse.
keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna spend less money. We're gonna, you know, not have guys sitting out there in the middle of nowhere. gives us time to reorganize and train for the future of the war, which is everybody. We forget that everybody owns drones now. You can buy a drone for $200, fly it in the air. It has thermal on it. Get coordinates right away. Attach a little bomb to it and drop it. So everyone's got thermals. Everyone got snot. Everyone's got a drone. We don't own any of it anymore. Before, we owned the skies. We owned the nights. We don't own any of that. And how much of our training has changed into or evolved into fighting that threat?
I mean, I've been out so long, who even knows?
I can guarantee you, still, if you look at our basic training in AIT, none of that has changed.
Oh, Hunter, I agree with you on that.
And you can say that units need to come up with the SOPs. Like, no, we need to start it right from the basic, right? And yes, it's units' responsibility as well to start developing new SOPs, but how many are doing that? I don't know. You know? So.
It's an interesting point that, I mean, the battlefield, this whole Ukraine, Russia shit is, it's let the world know. I mean, we're watching the battlefield live now.
Yep.
There's never been a more documented war ever. I mean, and now the next one's going to be even crazier because.
The funny thing is, we are making fun of Russia on like how bad they've got it and they're getting slayed.
That's not
Do you
the
think?
truth.
Well, yeah, that's that. And then if you think we got in a war with a bigger power tomorrow, we're not going to take a whole lot of casualties. You're wrong. Like we will still win because the amount of money and assets we can throw at it. But if you think we're not going to take just the same amount of casualties or more, you're wrong.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, they're taking out tanks with a drone. They're dropping a grenade in the freaking driver's hatch now.
Yes.
Like, how scary is that? Like, we were scared because nobody was in a military uniform. That was our stress. We didn't know who. I mean, now you could be sitting there eating chow inside of a bunker and in comes a freaking drone with a mortar round strapped to it.
Exactly.
That's so scary, man. I was talking to a buddy not too long ago about just how the battlefields change.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like a bitch or anything, but like, fuck that.
We're not fighting.
Can you imagine dying from a drone? From a drone, you're defending your country and you're out there doing your thing and like a drone's. And you're watching these footage of guys just the drones flying around these dudes. Just can you imagine your last moments on Earth are getting chased and harassed by a drone with a freaking mortar round strapped to it? Like that to me, like what the fuck? That's where I'm like, fuck that, I'm out.
Exactly.
Like, hey, if I don't know who I'm fighting, cool. I'm in a foreign country. They're going to defend it just like we would defend ourselves. We all signed the dotted line. But, like, the fact that I'm just sitting there trying to freaking take a break on the top of a roof and you get a grenade pin popped out from who knows where and you're sitting there with your buddy and a grenade lands between. How terrifying is that?
Yeah.
You want to talk about PTSD? Imagine those dudes.
Yep.
I just watched a video of a dude steps out of a bunker and shoots a drone as it's flying by with a shotgun and it explodes. I'm like...
And that's just one. Think about when you have 20 coming at you.
Swarm of these things. I mean, these guys are flying hundreds at a time and making light shows now. Imagine when they have a base and they just...
And they can do that today.
Oh, 100%. You know, see our CIA is building all that weapons and shit for it now.
We should be.
If we're not.
Tell
me they wouldn't use that against their own people.
Yeah.
When's that coming? You know, that's a whole other turn. But you've seen some shit. You know some intel. Like, tell me that shit's not coming, dude.
Yeah.
You know, when they can't weaponize the military against us, I mean, you could just drone anybody that's out after curfew. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's wild times, man.
It is wild, man.
It is wild times.
It's and that's why I'm like, you know, instead of us using this time to bring our forces back home and give them the opportunity and time to train for this next threat, we're doubling down on sending guys out to places in the disguise of like our presence is changing anything. Like,
what do you mean?
So the big thing in the military right now, or even in, I mean, of course, Congress is approving all of this. Like, we're sending guys on more deployments and more JSES, which is like the training exercise, and we're saying, well, this is how we're competing with the great power, you know, the big nations, right? It's like, okay, so we're going to all these places thinking we're, you know, lessening the threat for ourselves somehow. None of these other countries are sending people anywhere.
They're just building their forces.
And we're still getting rocketed every day. So explain to me how you're countering anybody's presence by your existence in their AO. It's just like, it just doesn't pass the common sense check of just sending our guys everywhere just because we're there, you know.
Because we're the U.S. military,
Yeah.
and
They're
we
like,
have it.
oh, we don't want Russia to like come in, and it's like, well, guess what? We just got kicked out of Africa. We were there for a while, and guess what? Who did pick? Russia. We're in same places already, so nobody really cares. But this, I don't know who is the strategist behind the strategy of like we're just gonna be everywhere and that's just gonna help us. Like it's clearly not helping or working, right? China never does that, and China is our huge threat right now. So it's like they can be a threat to us without doing any of that. Then isn't it time for us to figure out a different strategy?
You know what's fascinating to me having this conversation with you is how much pride you have in being a U.S. citizen, an American, and how much, like, you just talking about all our foreign conflicts right now. And, like, dude, you're from India. You know, you have no...
This is home, man. This has been home
That's
now.
what I love, dude. And that's what makes America so fucking incredible to me is that I'm able to sit here from some kid that grew up in India and didn't want to go to school with his parents, and now you're a Green Beret and have this pride built of this country. And like that's what's so frustrating, man. I get such goosebumps thinking about like these people and these foreigners have so much shit to bitch about, and our own college kids are sitting here protesting so much just bullshit every single day. And then here you are that left your country to better your life, started a business, and gave it all up to defend your now country. Like, dude, that's the coolest shit to me. Like,
Thanks,
I
man.
love this. I don't try to get emotional, but like, and it fucking pisses me off when you see these kids protesting bullshit and talking so much shit on this country. And like, here you are, like literally living this dream and chased everything and accomplished. I'm sure there's been struggles and battles that we talked about and things that you didn't probably want to bring up, but like, brother, you let nothing stop you. You've accomplished everything. And then we sit here and we watch these people that are push these crazy agendas and are doing everything they can to destroy this country. And to me, it's like, why? Like, we have the greatest thing here. We have some of the greatest, when I say Americans, like, dude, the fact that nobody would ever categorize you American, like, that would fucking piss me off.
Yeah.
Like, you're here and you're defending your country, and you have no American blood in you, right? You're from India, and here you are, man. It's such an incredible story. It just blows my mind, man. And I'm honored to know you and like see how much pride you have. And I'm sure your brother and sister probably look at you like, this is home. You're like, fuck you, this is home. You know, but that's how it should be.
Yeah.
If you're coming to a country, it should be anybody that goes anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we get all this huge, you know, I'm all for immigration.
Yeah.
If people want to come and better their life, fucking do it.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we have to offer, but obviously do it the right way. That's where I'm at with
Dude,
it.
I 100% agree with you, right? Here's what I say. If you're a legal immigrant into the U.S. and your blood doesn't boil when you see a bunch of illegal immigrants just flooding through the country, like, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Okay, so not to get political and
Yeah.
change subject off, but like, how does that feel, man? Because like,
Dude, it's absolutely absurd. Just from a common
just
sense.
quick.
let's
I
say-
don't want to
yeah.
get deep into because
Yeah.
like politics are just it's so
Yeah.
fucking dumb these days. But as
let's-
a legal immigrant that came here,
Yeah,
how does it feel?
Let's say I wasn't an immigrant, right? It doesn't. You can try to go across a border illegally for any other country. Tell me what happens to you.
Yeah, you're in jail.
You're in
immediately.
jail, right, or dead.
or dead.
Yeah, that's
Any country,
any country in the world. There's a reason countries have borders, right? Let alone me being an immigrant coming in and doing things the right way. What essentially, not getting too political, but that's just been the theme in this administration is, if you do something wrong, we're going to reward you. But if you do things the right way, we're going to penalize you. And you can pick, immigration. You cross the border illegally. Here's your phone. Here's your credit card.
your
Here's your
apartment,
hotel,
yeah.
apartment, food, and here's your living stipend. Keep coming. Gone are the days when people came to America because it was the dream it was the land of the dreams. Now it's become the land of freebies. You're telling me all these people are coming in because they have a dream? Absolutely wrong. It's because you've advertised that we'll take care of you if you just come in. All you got to do is just make it to a southern border, and we'll give you everything you need. You're not getting that mindset that was in here to like make or break their life.
That's gotta piss you off more than anything.
And guess what happens when they talk about giving citizenships to the undocumented people? You know how long it takes for legal immigrants to get their citizenship?
One of my best friend's wives has been going through it forever.
Yes,
And
especially if you're from India, right? Or China or like some other place. Not that I care about China, but you will sit in and provide value to the country by whatever job you're doing and paying taxes and doing your thing, and you'll be in that pipeline for 15, 20 years before you get your citizenship. And here comes somebody illegal. Not only do they get their bills taken care of, don't pay taxes, and be like, hey, here's your citizenship, by the way.
Wild times. Man. It's wild times.
Make that make sense.
Well, thank you for everything that you're doing it and having the pride, man. It's incredible.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
So what are you doing now? Obviously, I mean, I could probably talk. I love sitting and just hearing the SF side of things.
Yeah.
Where are you now? Now that you got out, why did you get out? Let's do there.
Yeah. So I didn't want to get out. Obviously, when I dropped my business to come do this, like this was the thing. Like, and I was just gonna go on to the next thing in the military, and the next thing, that was my goal. And then after my last deployment in Syria, we got there and we were getting rocketed quite a bit. So without getting into too much detail, I kind of started analyzing where we're getting some of these hits from, and they were coming from like the same area-ish. And we had gone and driven through that area a couple days ago, and I kind of like painted this picture for myself of how this checkpoint was set up, and I kind of came up with a plan. And we're not supposed to do any unilateral as in like missions, SF, U.S. unit only, right? But came up with an idea of like we can probably do a stay behind of a recce element there and just watch, and we'll probably find someone. So we kind of did a pretty it was pretty neat on how we were like, because like we have to go with our Kurdish counterparts everywhere, right?
Okay.
So we had a truck or two of them as well, but we were able to like get away from them as we sent an element with them, thinking like, hey, this is the whole element, but we peeled off from the back.
And they didn't know?
They didn't know. That was the plan all along, right? And
Why didn't they know? Were they not allowed it to happen, or did you not trust them?
I didn't trust them. I don't trust them. But B, if we did, then things would have been different, because then they would have told the checkpoints, and I don't know who the checkpoint was in connection with.
Got it. Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
I didn't want people to know what we were trying to do, like them to know how we were trying to do.
Because word travels quick over there.
Exactly. Yep. So we peeled off. We were short, man, so we only brought one truck there. Pulled it in. And essentially just told the checkpoint guys, hey, you guys are going to get attacked tonight, so let us help you. We're here to help. Go cut that light and don't use your phones at all. Like, put them over here. So I watched this little Kurdish guy climb a light pole without any ropes, turn this light off for me, and then my sniper buddy and I, we got set up on the top of this little checkpoint. Okay. And it was a huge area. We were covering 360 degree between him and I, and then we had two guys, two of my other teammates.
And this is after dark?
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't want to do that in the daylight, because that's when kind of the guys will come out to like do something. Essentially, my buddy, my teammate, he tracked a guy down, and then he kind of like did a huge clover leaf and came on the other side, came to my side. We tracked this guy down. We were pretty sure like this is a bad guy. Like,
what were your indicators?
There's a curfew in the country at that time. You're not supposed to be out. He's in the area that we get rocketed from, so it was pretty evident that he is scouting a new site to place the tube and rocket us.
And you guys are watching him?
Oh yeah, we were on to him.
Are you droning at this point, or is it just
no? We were just behind guns.
Okay.
We were both on our sniper rifles, and because we were short man, we tried to get our teammates to go grab this guy, but he had just walked a little further away, and there was no direct right to him.
Okay.
And that's the day we should have brought our dog, but then we were told to not bring the dog out, and that's a whole nother story. Anyways, there was just some contention there where we should have had 2 more GBs on ground that we didn't have, and it was always frustrated us because a couple of guys in leadership just not seeing straight and things, how tactics actually need to work. Anyways, we tracked this guy down. We got a drone up in the sky. It's not armed, but we can track him. We saw which house it went into. Like, hey, let's converge. We're going down to his place. You guys come out from there, and we'll meet you there. Let's make a plan before you do anything. By the time we get there, they've already sent the Kurds in, and they come out. We're like, oh, there's no one there. It's like, bullshit. We saw the guy getting in. So, my teammates and I were already set up, and we saw somebody crawl out from the back.
Really?
Yeah. And then
the Kurds let him out, or was he just escaping?
I don't know the truth of the situation. I could probably guess what was happening, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, he was crawling. We went and grabbed him because I really didn't want to kill this guy. I wanted to find out, the rest of the network. I was going to use that. My goal was like, let's use him to like draw out the network. Like, who else is involved? Who else is here, right? Anyways, we bring him over. We hand him over to our chief, while I was still pulling security. A couple of my other team members got him, right? Because we had him on our sights because we were the only ones with the sniper rifle, so we could see him. Bring him over, they're questioning him, and all of a sudden there's like gunfire going on all around us, right? And so there was some tribal dispute going on, but we couldn't really tell like if they're kind of coming after us or what's going on, right?
Yeah, you're just hearing AKs ripping.
Yeah, and it's just going on all around. And it's like, okay, it's probably a bad day to be out because we don't have anything armed overhead, right? And at this point, our drone went down too, like had to come back. So we were only looking from this balloon. So we can't really get all the angles.
Yeah.
So now we have nothing overhead. So we're like, all right, let's just leave. Let's grab him and leave. Okay, so we pack up and leave. We come back to the base and realize our chief let this guy go.
No.
Obviously, needless to say, a couple of us lost our shit over this to our leadership. We're like, what the fuck just happened? Like, first off, it wasn't even your mission. Like, we came up with the idea. It was extremely successful. We had the guy, and you let him go. Why did you let him go? He's like, well, he said he thought we were tribals trying to kill him. So that's why he was scared and running away. It's like, us with our gear, we're tribals. And let's say that was the case. Let's just do some common sense. Hey, man,
Why would the tribals be after him?
Well, because there's a tribal dispute going on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, okay,
let's,
yeah, I guess.
Let's just say he was afraid of that. Not that the tribals look like us, Let's say that was the case. There's gunfire going on. How hard was it to say, hey, man, let's get in the truck. We'll go back to the base. We'll sort this out there because obviously it's not safe here. Common sense, right?
Yeah.
No. I think the fact is he let him go because we're not supposed to do a unilateral mission, and we actually nabbed a guy. And that is my theory. He never agreed or disagreed to it. He just said, like, oh, I just thought he was innocent. How do I know he was innocent? A, we tracked him fucking down. B, we kept his phone. They didn't know that we had the phone.
Oh.
So it was my team. One of my team was super smart, kept his phone, didn't tell anyone. Came back, sent it back to Iraq to get exploited. Within a week, phone starts ringing. Go get this guy. This guy was on lists for a lot of people.
He was right there.
We had him. He was in our hands.
You had him.
And he could have opened up a huge network for us, right?
You ever find him?
No, we didn't even go looking for him because they told us like, oh, they're telling us that we need to go get this guy. I'm like, you can go. I'm not going because he's not fucking there anymore.
No, yeah, long on.
It's like he's gone. He's like, what dumb Americans came here, got me, and then let me go.
And this is in Syria?
This was in Syria, and that was it. I was just like,
That dude was like, woo!
And then the same guys went
Watch
on
that.
to put themselves in for Bronze Star. So
No.
to me, now I've seen how the awards work, how the your evaluation reports work. Like, it's just all a show. You know?
It really is.
And they're taking advantage of the fact that we don't have a real war going on anymore, right? So we're doing these things where we don't want to take any risks, but people still want to get awards. So they're, just writing whatever they want to write.
Oh, yeah, they have their buddy, the officer, write it for them.
Make things look like, they write it themselves. And then make it look like they did something fancy when who's going to be accountable for this mistake that you just made? We had the guy, let him go.
Nobody.
So that is what did it for me because I came up with that plan. It was super fucking good. Like, our guys did super fucking phenomenal job of like tracking this guy down, and it could have been a huge success. And it went down the way it went down at the end, and people put themselves in for Bronze Star still. That is what upset me, and it hates me to leave the team because like I fucking love my team. The guys are fucking phenomenal, and
That's a hard decision, huh?
oh, dude, yeah, it was rough.
What year was this?
This was 2022.
Oh, so this is fresh.
Yeah, this was fresh. So we came back, and then my sniper buddy got us a slot for another school. We both went straight to another school. Came back, something else was popping off somewhere else. It wasn't like anything. It was a good spot to be in, and nobody had the wind of it that this was going on. him and I found out about that, and we were like, we're jumping on this and not telling anyone. So here I am, less than a year from getting out, but I'm trying to take every opportunity I can get to do as much work and experience I can get out of this, right? Yeah, so him and I were the only two left the country again right away, and just before things happened in October in Middle East, we were there.
Really?
And that was like, it was a great experience for us. I'm glad we got to do it too, and yeah, that was the last thing I did, and I came back, and I'm like, all right, man, it's time to.
Can you talk about that or no?
I don't know entirely, so I'm just gonna keep it. It was a training thing though, so but I don't know how open it is.
Training, yeah.
It is. It was a training.
Was
thing.
there ever a mission that you guys did that stuck out in your head that either like scared the shit out of you, or you were like, oh fuck moment? Was there?
It was. It wasn't all that bad, but we did one more of these recce missions in Syria again. We went to a different spot, and I was sitting up on top of this water tank to kind of just look across the river, because like across the river is where the Iranian side is, right?
Yeah.
That's where a lot of militia comes in from, and that's where all the smuggling happens from. So we were looking for anybody like transporting weapons or something else to come in. Like, we didn't really care about the drugs all that much because that's not our role. And I was sitting up there, and I was more worried about of what's in front of me, right? Because I thought somebody has my back, like it's clear. And then all of a sudden, gunfire starts, and then a round lands maybe like 5 or maybe 2 or 3 meters away from me. And I'm like, that came from behind me. And my back was exposed. Like, I was only covering my front because I'm like, you know, I just want to make sure I don't get shot by someone else, because, like, I was in a spot where if someone started firing, like, that's the spot they're going to aim for. But, like, that's the only spot I could find where I could see stuff from. So I had a little mud wall in front of me, and I'm like, if something happens, I'm just going to dive down, and that's all I can really do. But, you know, I was worried about what was in front of me, not what was behind me. So my back was completely exposed, and as soon as that round landed, I'm like, that came from behind us. Like, what the fuck, SDF? Because SDF is the Kurd partners.
Okay.
Like,
Which
why?
was supposed to be back there?
Yeah, I was like, why? They're just like all lollygagging and talking to each other, and our leadership's standing there, they're talking like, hey, who's watching those streets back there? Like, I thought you had this area on lockdown. I don't think anybody knew I was there. They were just firing shots to let people know that the U.S. forces are in the area, and I think that's how they were communicating back and forth across the river.
Really?
Because they didn't want to use radios all the time.
They listen
either.
to everything, and they know that.
Yeah, so I think that is how they were communicating. Be like, hey, someone's in the area, don't do anything, because we didn't see anything happen that night.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you decide to get out.
Yeah, so yeah, I decided.
Which is probably a pretty rough decision because
it was, man, because I didn't really want to just do my team time and get out. The other part was like, if I would have stayed in, unless I were to put a packet for another spot, you know, another place to go, like they would have pushed me into schoolhouse to go teach. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the schoolhouse and going to teach, but there's only so much you're going to get out of me. If I'm there, I need to be out in the field operating. Like, I'm not doing anything else. I'm here to fight. Like, let me go fight. Like, I fucking stayed single this whole time so I can go do this. Like, let me go do what I need to do. Like, if you're going to force me into schoolhouse, like, I'm out. Like, that's just not my thing.
I get you.
So that would have happened regardless, because I've already met my 4 years of team time. So it was like, it might be
a pretty tough crossroad, huh?
Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? I guess it's just nothing else was getting out right now.
Yeah.
And you know, the team, you know, you just got to think about that. But
so once you made that decision,
yeah,
I mean, now you're like, shit, I gotta do something now. You know, like, I gotta start all over again, because I mean, obviously you plan on career in it in the team, so that didn't pan out.
Yeah, that didn't go.
So how'd you shift gears?
So things went silent for a while. You know, it was the day that I got out of the team group chat. My phone didn't ring for like a whole week. Like, no text messages, no notifications.
And it's a daily thing in the group chat?
Yeah, I mean, you're like, there's always something going on, right? So like, I didn't have like any communication with anyone, and
it's a pretty lonely feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't it crazy how the military, I don't want to say sets us up, but they don't prepare you for the loneliness of like the brotherhood, and like I don't miss the Marine Corps at all.
Yeah.
I am just getting over the phase of hating it. Like I haven't built the pride back in it now,
Yeah.
but like I was at that point where I
Yeah.
absolutely hate it. But like, dude, you go every day working with the craziest clowns and like, the personalities and dudes that you just look at and you just start laughing because you know he's just just a clown, and he's gonna
Yeah.
make you laugh, and even when you're pissed off, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
one day it's all gone,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's so hard to explain.
Yeah, and I don't blame the military because I don't know if
I think they'd be preparing us for it, though. You know, like that's one of the biggest things that we've run into with our organization is the
Yeah.
loneliness, is the brotherhood. That's what
Yeah.
everybody misses. You think like that's something they would try to like.
right. And that's kind of like after you know after I kind of just been through what I've just felt like I've been alone in my life a lot. Like I've been on my own since I was 16. I've left the country. I've lived in a different state every year. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know a whole lot of people, and I didn't feel like I was lonely until like I got away from the team.
100%.
Yeah.
Because you get used to that.
And I was just like, it would never happen to me because, you know, I've built a career before from nothing. You know, I've lived all over the place. Like, I've moved countries, I've moved states all the time. Like, this will never happen to me. And when I felt that, I was just like, okay, I need to make sure that I can do something to help as the guys get out. So that is where I'm like, I think it may not be on the military to do something about it, but I think it's our responsibility as guys
sure.
getting out to make sure we stay in touch with guys.
So what are
especially
you
if-
doing to help that?
So I'm trying to figure that out, right? There's two things that I want to do. I want to, given my experience in consulting before working in corporate and then doing the SF route, I never thought that I was going to have a hard time getting a job as soon as I get out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been nothing but exact opposite of that, right? And I don't know if it's because the times we live in today, you know, the market is bad, and you know that military experience on the resume might look a little different. I don't know what the reason is. It's not like I'm never gonna stop trying. You know, I'll find a way to get in. It's just whatever. But I don't want the guys getting out going through the same stuff. So I want to make sure I can build something. I want to start making connections with people and executives because there's a lot of organizations that are trying to help veterans, but like nobody has connections with executives. Everybody has connections with the HR people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it just dies there, right? Or you get a job that you're way overqualified to do because you didn't get put in touch with the right people, right? So I want to try to build relationships again. I need to enter the corporate America again and then build relationships where I'm like, hey, let me introduce you to this guy getting out, soft background or non-soft background, whatever it is, right? Here's his specialties, and I just want you guys to like get connected and talk. Maybe there's something that can work out there. Instead of sending you to a HR guy who has no clue the caliber of guy he's talking to. Because, dude, I have worked with so many great NCOs, all enlisted guys, not naming any of the officers, right? Stellar. Not just as their job, but super fucking smart. Can problem solve anything, get anything done. And the biggest part is with all of us, super quick learners. So if the subject matter expertise is a contention, why don't you let him work under somebody for 6 months and see where this guy goes?
Yeah.
But the problem is there aren't a lot of opportunities there because everybody thinks when people are getting out of the military, especially from SOF, everybody wants to go after the officer because they think, you know, he's the one leading the team. It's like, no, the guys are running the team. Officer doesn't run the team, right? He's just there to sign. This is just a fact, right? He's the least experienced guy on the
He's there to sign
team.
for weapons, gear.
He's the least experienced guy on the team,
Oh,
right?
for sure.
But all of a sudden you become 04, 05, 06. Now you have connections so you can make phone calls, which I see the value in. But if you actually want to get stuff done, you want the enlisted guy.
For sure. Oh, 100%.
But, you know, it's just, and so that's the big thing I think we need to start the change, and it starts with guys like us, like going out and be like, hey, you need to talk to the enlisted guys. Like, those are the guys that actually get stuff done. They're actually smart. Like, gone are the days that we didn't have degrees or, like, experience. Like, guys come from all walks of life, 2 degrees, prior working experience, athletes. it's like there's a lot of experience here that is not getting utilized. So long answer to that question, short. The first part is I got to figure out how I can make sure that there's a bridge where guys don't struggle to get employment after. Because a lot of guys don't even get out and stay in the toxic spot because they don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Right.
It's scary.
It is. Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Because you go from the military, I mean, you got a guaranteed paycheck.
Yeah.
All the health benefits, your wives are taken care of, kids are taken care of, everything, and then you make that decision. And I think that's what traps a lot of guys in the military. And then that's how they end up miserable old dinosaurs, is because they, man, when you make that jump, it is fucking scary, man.
Yeah, it is.
When you finally come to that agreement, like, okay, I'm done. Like when I joined the Marine Corps, I 100% joined the career.
Yeah.
And then after I did my second term, and where I was in my leadership, I looked at it and I was like, there is no way I can do this the rest of my life.
Right.
And so I, went to my wife now and I was like, I'm out. She's like, what are you going to do? I was like, I swear to this day, my exact words were, I will flip burgers at fucking In-N-Out before I stay another day in here. She's like, okay.
Yeah.
That was her answer, okay. And it was, and I was like, oh shit, you're supposed to talk me out of this,
Right.
Like,
Like, now I'm going to have to do it.
no, I have to do it. She called my bluff. I got to get the fuck out. And so then that's when I started. But it was so scary, man. It was scary. I mean, and then I jumped right on a contract and went to Afghan because I was scared. That's all I knew.
Yeah. You're going to take the first thing you can get, right? When things get rough. And, I'm not opposed to doing that work still because, but yeah. So that's one piece of it, right? Trying to make sure, can get something set up to have employment for the guys and then reaching out, right? Because I think it's our job to just, hey, let me just text you. Let me call you, right?
Battle checks, dude. Battle buddy checks.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. You don't have to talk about feelings. Like, who cares, right? Sometimes guys just want to hear, what's up, dude? What's going on?
That's it, man.
What have you been doing?
Yeah.
That's it, man. Just kind of check in.
Just thinking about you.
I think that goes a long way. So I think the more guys kind of get in that mindset will help everybody else, So I think it's our duty, even though the military may not do anything about it, So
It is, and I've thought of ways, and we're going to be closing one of our adventures soon as a family, and I want us. This is one of those things, like, how do we get the community? But the problem with vets are, man, we're so stubborn. We're so stubborn and so just, I'll never ask for help. That's a sign of weakness, and that's what takes you down that dark path, is not, and then. So it's like, how do you get that guy that's some SF dude or some grunt that's done 8, 12 years and 6 deployments and all he knows is how to be a hard charger to be able to reach out for help? Like, how do we get those guys to do it?
They won't, right?
Yeah.
I didn't reach out for help, and I never will. That's just who we are, right?
Yeah.
I could be going through the roughest time in my life. If I come out and talk to you, you would never know.
Yeah.
And we could be best friends. You would not know.
But how healthy is that?
It's not. And I'm saying, that's just who I am.
I know,
and I would never tell anyone to do what I'm doing, right? I would always tell people to go reach out. But most of us are like that. We may tell people after we're over the hill, be like, hey, I was struggling at some point in time.
That seems to be I
right?
went through these times, and it's like, well,
And
who was there for you?
I think that's why it's, I want to see, hey, we'll talk more about, the organized chaos thing in a second here, but my number is always available to any of the soft guys, especially if you're a Green Beret.
Yeah.
And to any of the lower enlisted, like you're E1 to E4, text me a message. If you're getting out and you have doubts about how to navigate something, right? Or you just don't know, your mind is not at ease, just text me. Or just message me on there and I'll give you my phone number. Just call me. And I'm not doing this as a nonprofit or anything. This is just my time, and I will talk to as many people as I can talk to.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes
But here at
all
the
it
same
takes,
time, I'm going to call spade a spade on this one. If you're not willing to help yourself,
right?
How are other guys going to reach out to you?
Exactly.
Don't you feel that you need to walk their shoes and
Yep. So that's where I was going to say my side, right? I would never do it, and I'm sitting here and going to say I would not recommend you to go what I'm doing. There's no way to no reason to put yourself through that, right?
Yeah.
So take this as an opportunity to just use my my account and just text me or call me, right?
Yeah.
However, the people that I personally know, I'm not going to wait for them to reach out to me. I'm going to reach out to them. The reason I'm saying that is because there's a lot of people that I don't know.
But who's reaching out to you?
I'm already past that point. I'm good.
You're a stubborn one. You're a stubborn one.
I don't know, man. I've lived my life since 16 on my own.
Yeah, but that's
you
not
know,
that's
and-
not
and
healthy
I,
or fun.
I know it's not. It's what?
It's not healthy or fun.
It's not. It's not the right way to deal with things. But I know who I am,
Yeah.
and that's who I am. And
At this chapter,
yeah.
you know, like dude, I've gone through your path, man.
Yeah.
I fought the world for a long time.
Yeah.
I still do.
Yeah. Well, some things are just, and I'm getting better at it. You
See,
know, I would text my boys every now and then, be like, just check in. And I know there's a couple of guys that always reach out every few weeks. They will just like send me a message, and
Yeah.
you know, yeah. It's hard in our community, man. Guys like us, they just.
I couldn't even. It's hard in the veteran community. I couldn't
Yeah.
even imagine being in such a small, tight knit
Yeah.
unit where. You know all your teammates' secrets, their darkest secrets.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
you just spend so much time and you go through so many things together. You know, you build that bond.
100%.
Or you can always rely on the guy next to you. Like, all right, man, I need this.
That's where I feel a lot of people it's so hard for them to grasp. Like my daughter not too long ago, she saw me with one of my old buddies that I haven't seen in a long time. And she's like, Dad, you guys, I swear, like that was one of your best friends. And I'm like, kid, like you have no idea how many dark conversations, how many amazing conversations. Like I know that dude's darkest secrets.
Yeah.
I know his demons.
Yeah.
And he knows mine. And that's where like it's so hard for us to try to fit into like the civilian world, because like you look at these, and this isn't anything negative on civilians, but it's like what the fuck have you gone through with that dude?
Yeah.
To call that guy your best friend. Like I'm leaving here in a couple days with a couple of my best friends, like guys that I stood on the yellow footprints next to.
Yeah.
And you know we're going to Alaska, but like I can't pick back up with some guy from. I mean, I don't text a civilian for a couple weeks. I think you're mad at him.
Yeah.
So it's like it's hard for us to try to find those relationships again. And I
Yeah.
feel like there's, instead of the charity route, like, is it like groups? Is it an app where guys can get on and communicate?
Yeah.
And it's a closed circuit, and then you can break down into branches and units and I mean, where do we start with? Because there's so many, like, dude, there's so many guys that I try to find that they're gone, you know? And it's like, fuck, dude, I have so many great memories with this guy. And at the same time, like, we had those bonds because it's not like you're sitting scrolling with somebody.
Yeah.
You're fucking sitting in a dark room at 3 a.m, just got back from a mission, you're like, that was wild. Like,
Yeah.
fuck, dude, I can't believe I lost a grenade and we had to go back and look for it. And my MVGs fell off, you know, like just that shit. Where
dumb stuff, yeah.
You know, just dumb shit, but like that all created that bond. And do you remember that guy ran that checkpoint? And like just the crazy shit, or every morning getting up and going on a patrol and, you know, like just doing dumb stuff. And it just creates that bond and that brotherhood. But like, we miss it.
Yeah.
You know, like that's it.
The thing is, like, it's hard to build that same bond with other people when you haven't
is.
done stuff with them, right? And it's not like, so I have 2 friends that are civilian, right? And they're my best friends as well, right?
Yeah.
And it's where, like, I can rely on them as well. Like, if I were to call them for
Oh, yeah.
something, like, I can 100% rely on them. So it's not just like, it's just, whatever bond you build with somebody for a certain period of time, it's hard to, like, when you detach and you just think, like, oh, I'm going to just find new people, especially as you get older. Like that will
especially trauma bonded together.
exactly. So you're just never gonna get that, right? So that's why it's like the biggest way we can impact is like the guys from the same teams reaching out to each other,
Yeah.
or same communities. Like, hey, we're from the 5th group, or like things like that, right? And I wish there was a better way to it, and I'm sure there is something. I just don't know what it is. I think. Maybe like getting more guys into like some sort of competitions might be something.
As in how? Like shooting?
Shooting or whatever. Hey, pick a hobby. Let's group guys together that have the same hobbies, you know.
Is that what this wild chaos, what do you call it?
Organized chaos.
Organized
Yeah.
chaos, which is hilarious.
Yeah. So the name kind of comes from, you know, the SF lifestyle of,
Oh, for
you know,
sure.
everything is chaotic. You just got to get good at organizing the chaos, right?
Yeah.
And if you can master that, then you can master anything.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea behind that wasn't any of this. When I was going through my phase of detaching from everything and figuring out what I'm going to do, I didn't want to go back to consulting because at this point it doesn't excite me as much.
You live a different
right?
tempo now.
Yeah, I reopened the business, but I never really tried to make a huge sale out of that, right?
Okay.
I might still do it if
Yeah.
I need to, just to get some, because it is lucrative and it can help fund something else.
Yeah.
But I'm not passionate about it. So I'm sitting there toying around with, hey, what do I do with myself? So I'm like, okay, what kind of things am I good at? What I can help out with? So I kind of like pondered upon like, hey, I did have several injuries, and I got told several times I can't do this or that, and I know how I worked that out by trial and error, working with like really good trainers, really good like doctors and stuff. Took pieces from everyone to figure out what actually works for me, because like there's no one size fit for all, right? And be like, oh, this is how I need to work my body to still stay as strong as I can and be able to do things I enjoy doing.
Yep.
So I'm like, hey, let me just try to push that and see if I can help others that are struggling with the same thing do that, right? So like essentially helping people like break through the barriers of like, hey, I don't have time, I'm injured,
Yeah.
or like I don't even know where to get started because I don't have structure. A lot of that was, and I didn't really do this for like, hey, this is gonna make me millionaire. Like I just didn't want to sit at home and let my mind run.
Yeah, that's where it gets
At
dangerous.
100 miles, because like you're coming from this job where your mind, you're like constantly stimulated, right?
Yeah, you're on.
Yeah, so now you've stopped all that, but your mind is still racing. It still needs to keep going at 100 miles per hour. And
There's no downshifting for you.
there's nothing. So what do I do with that? Or I'll just drive myself crazy. So, I am not a social media guy. Like it makes me absolutely uncomfortable every time I post something.
Yeah.
Right. And some of that shows in the content too, because it's just like, what does this guy do? It does put me out of my comfort zone, but then. And I know it definitely turns a lot of people's head the other way, be like, oh, now you're an influencer? I don't want to talk to you. I'm like, cool, man, I don't really care, because I don't really care what you think of me. I'm actually trying to just experiment with a few things, and it's the constant process of learning. So
for sure.
I'm using that to figure out how to actually get good at online marketing, right? And there's a product there which I think is pretty good. And if I can get people to like start thinking in the right direction, I think it can help a lot of people. Like especially like, giving back to the community in form of like, if you go get a personalized program, right, it will probably cost you $300 a month or something, because that's what I was paying, right? I want to keep it cheap, and I want to try to like reach as many people as I can. Now it's not going to be personalized programming, but again, it gives you the structure, teaches you how to actually work out with your injuries, right? And then modify it to your needs. Like, hey, I'm injured, or like, hey, I don't have time. I'm gonna skip the last two parts today because I only have time for this much, right? Or hey, I know how my body feels when I push past this limit, so I'm gonna back down and operate in this range, right? So it's about education on the fitness side, and fitness is the only product I'll put out there because that was easy to create at first and get me started, right?
Got it.
But then the other part was like reaching out, right? So I do want to give back a little bit to India too, and hopefully some of these people will listen to me and do the right thing. But you look at people in other worlds, right? I mean, you were talking about protests. I do want to touch that briefly in a second here too. But people look at America and we want to be like America, right? But people in other countries, what they see in America these days is all the bad stuff.
For sure.
So the protest started out in America, and now everybody protests, right? We forget about what the real issues are, and we never address them at all, and we just get behind the whole train of like, hey, we're going to be like them, we're going to do what they're doing, and we're going to do exactly like that. So
Yeah.
we start talking stuff that just doesn't even make sense, or hey, you got bigger problems to solve, right? But where I was going with that is people in India look at Western society and all they want to do is drink and party because
Yeah.
they think that's what we do, right?
Yep.
It's like they don't think about the work ethic. They don't think about the health conscious people, right? They don't think about any of the good stuff, the hardworking people, you know,
Yeah.
self-starters. They want to tack on all the bad stuff. So if I can help them understand, like, hey, there's other parts to the life too.
Yep.
Because you will see a lot of excuses from those people. They're like, well, I don't have the resources. I don't have a gym. I don't know how to train, you know. I don't have the money. It's like, well, you have all that when you want to drink, right? You fight your parents every day to go out so you can go drink somewhere.
What's your beer tab or your bar tab every night?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if it's to like actually better yourself, you're going to make an excuse. It's because you don't want it as bad. You're happy going down the path you're going down, and someone's trying to show you the way you don't
It's
want to.
easier to be complacent.
Exactly. So hopefully some of that mindset can change with that. But so fitness is one component of that. The second one is the mindset and a little bit of like the tactical side too. And this is where like you were talking about people swaying in the wrong direction and just like crying and complaining about everything. I'm hoping, and this is all going to be free content for mindset, like hoping we can reach enough people where we can educate people on, hey, we need to do better ourselves as citizens instead of constantly being a leech to the society and asking what the country is doing for us.
Mm-hmm. Be
Like-
an asset, not a liability.
No, yeah, ask yourself, what are you doing for the country before you ask what the country is doing for you. And I get it, we're all paying taxes, so there's a certain responsibility. I get that. But are you being an asset, right? Or are you just being out there stopping other people from being an asset by creating a protest and crying about things?
Are you raising your children to be an asset? or a
Exactly. That
liability?
is huge too, man, right? Because a lot of what we're seeing right now is people that didn't raise their kids right, to be honest, right? They let that happen.
That's scary. It's catching up.
It is, and you're just seeing that, you know, because participation trophies for everyone. Like, no, man, you either win or you lose. And it sucks to lose, but guess what? It showed you where you're weak. Go better yourself, right? And you can win too, right?
I think on participation medals, one of my proudest moments as a dad is my daughter won a participation medal, and
She was so offended
Oh, that's awesome.
that they gave it to her. She was so offended, and I hung it up at the house, right when you off one of my mounts. And
Yeah.
I thought she'd have whooped my ass. And it was just one of those tough tournaments, and she lost all her fights, and she just didn't show up that weekend. I mean,
Yeah.
it just
It
happens.
happens.
It happens.
It's part of it.
But they had like the fourth, fifth place, like for
Yeah.
like that weren't the actual medals, but they're like these little. And oh my god! And, but the fact of how offended she was that they gave her a medal for not placing.
Oh, dude,
She was more mad over that than she was losing. She's like, why? Like she was offended. Like, oh, here you go. And so I was like, okay, that made me feel good. That like she wasn't like, I still got one. She
Yeah.
was just like, fuck this thing. Like she tried to throw it away. I dug it out of the trash, and I was like, nope, we're gonna hang this up, and you're gonna remember what it felt
That you
like to
threw it.
earn that.
Exactly.
You were never gonna see one of these again. And she ended up fighting, becoming a world champion, but she never got one of those
Dude,
again. So.
that is so awesome.
But I was like, okay, cool. She was mad, and I was like, all right, did my job.
That's what we need more kids to be like,
For
and
sure.
that's because we need more parents to raise their kids like that, right? Otherwise, we're just gonna keep going down this path, right?
Exactly.
So that's where like the mindset side of this is, right? But I don't want to be one of these guys that are just constantly coming out and yelling at everybody. It's like, all right, man, who gave you the right to think that you can yell at other people? Like, they get tons of likes too, by the way. I'm just
Oh,
like,
you're
I guess-
talking those videos of the dude just
just constantly.
like going to be a man, learn how to be a man by some guy that's
Oh,
a fraud.
man.
You want to hear some crazy shit?
Yeah.
One of these classes that these dudes are paying like 10, 15 grand to go and get yelled at for a weekend. One of the guys that's hosting these classes,
Yeah.
he's one of the famous ones. My wife used to work for, and they ended up going bankrupt. He got kicked out of the company. The dude's a total fraud, and now he's hosting like these how to be a man clinics. And came across my wife's like, oh my god, like the story behind this dude is wild. And now people are like, these men are taking advice from this dude.
Man, I'll say a couple of things about that, right? I'm not gonna blame you as an individual trying to sell something, right? Whatever, dude. I will never do that. We were talking about shitty car salesmen.
Yeah.
That's not my character. I could never be a shitty car salesman.
Nope.
And it's not just my reputation that rides on it. It's just because I went ahead and did the thing that I just did, it's everybody else that has that beret before me or after me.
For sure.
It's their reputation as well. So I can never be that guy, but hey, man, clearly you found some people that are willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
You're just trying to make income. I got it. Keep
Yep.
doing what.
I respect the hustle.
Exactly. Is it the right way? Probably not. Would I do it? Absolutely not. Right? Let's talk about the people that are signing up for this, right? If you think that you are going to become better of a man by paying another person to yell at you and scream at you to become a better man, like, that's just never going to happen. You've already shown your cards that.
That's how I feel. But I have a client that went through one of these though, and he tried to get me to come to one, and I was like, homie, like, you're a great guy and all, but
here's my thing. You're doing this because you think it's cool. That's the only reason you're doing it. If you truly want to fix yourself and do it, then you got to put something on the line. Because there's nothing on the line. You're not failing one of those things, right? What happens when you quit? You just go home.
Yeah, you're going back home. My thing is, and here's the thing, why I think a lot of these guys are complete just frauds in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at them and you get to know them. They're all in financial hardship. Their wives are leaving them. They have no relationship with their children.
Yep.
They're all over the place, but they're talking about how to better yourself. And they're human, you know, like they're going, it's like people that go to these counselors, like do you think that counselor's perfect?
Yeah.
You don't think that person's ever struggled and had their demons?
Yeah.
So like we put like this title on him because, oh, this guy was an SF guy, this guy was military, he's a Green Beret, he's a Navy SEAL, I'm going to go train with Navy SEALs. Like, those dudes are just as fucked up as you are. We all are.
Exactly.
You know, so I think it just comes down to, but at the same time, I get people need some motivation.
Right.
But as far as like me going to a class, getting yelled at for a week, and then I get some shitty hatchet given to me with my name on it, like, that's not going to make me a man.
That's what I'm like. Just explain to me how that changed anything in your life, because that was all a pretend show.
I got a cool story that I got to go hang out with Navy SEALs and get hazed for the
That's
weekend.
essentially it, right? You're paying somebody to haze you. What is the end goal there?
I feel like if I came back and I was like, hey, honey, these Navy SEALs changed my life, she's going to look at me like, you're
She's
a
probably
bitch.
going to leave you.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
it's like, oh, so you paid somebody to be a bitch for them?
and did you see some clip on the internet of me rolling around in the sand, getting yelled at by some retired Navy SEAL? Like, I don't know, man. I just don't understand how that.
That's where I'm like, I don't care.
How do we do it the right way?
Yeah. So I'm going to try to get to it. Hopefully I can try to help people, right? But, like, that's why I don't, like, necessarily blame them, even though I think it's the wrong way to do it. I'm not going to comment on them. I'm going to more comment on people who are buying that stuff, right? It's like, really?
Yeah, I mean, capitalize, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Hey, like I said, I don't hate the play or hate the game, so I guess respect the hustle. It's just wild to me.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And then there's the other side of it, too, like people that are just coming out, you know. I've been saying that for the last couple of days here because I just, like, for some reason my feed just, like, all these people, they're, like, talking stuff and, you know, they're all mindset and motivation coach. And you're seeing, like, people got a little bit of success and all of a sudden they're expert in almost everything. And I'll tell you this, as someone who's had success, gave it up, had success again, gave it up, and not trying to do it for the third time. It was different the first time. It was much different the second time. And it's a whole nother story the third time.
Interesting.
Right? It was never the same. So for you to think you're all of a sudden expert from one success, and you know, I'm not going to shortchange you because, like, hey, it still takes a lot of work to do it. And once you have one, you can build upon that. But for most of these people to come out, and a lot of them say this, like, oh, you can take everything away from me and I'll be a millionaire again tomorrow. I'm
I
like,
hear that all the time.
but you haven't. It's hypothetical, right? Let's not talk about the hypotheticals. Let's talk about
real world.
because I don't know how you would react once you didn't have stuff, then you had it. Giving it, like I said before, like giving it up after you've had it, it's a whole nother ball game, and it fucks with your head. And I don't know. I haven't seen you, so I don't know how you're going to react when you actually, if you ever have to give that up. It might break you.
It's fascinating you say that because I'll see these clips and give me $100,000 or give me $1,000, I'll turn it $1 million by the end of the year. I'll be a millionaire within 6 months. It's like, well, if you could be a millionaire in 6 months, why aren't you helping people?
Or why are you still here? why are you still trying to sell on Instagram?
Why are you an influencer on Instagram? If you could be a millionaire within a year, why aren't you turning your millions into hundreds of millions? Where, like, to me, success, when I've told this to Chris, like the day that I disappear and people are like, what the fuck ever happened to Bam?
He got really rich. He
fucking
actually
made it.
made money.
I'm not going to say a word, but there'll be signs.
Yep.
But I'm not even talking the toys and shit. I'm just going to disappear
because
with
you don't
my
need to
family.
do any of this anymore.
Like, you're sitting here trying to be like, I'm worth this and hundreds of millions. You're a fucking influencer on Instagram. If you're crushing life that much, take your money and go work on your family.
Exactly.
And build a relationship with your children. That's what I look at.
Yep.
Like, and that's where I look at these dads and they're going and getting hazed by military guys. It's like, bro, like, it just, I guess where my mind is like, dude, if those guys were that successful and have figured out life that much, why are you now trying to collect all this money? And it's like, dude, if you're, I don't know, to each their own. I'm not trying to trash anybody, but I look at these motivational speakers and like, you're worth how much? And like, you're an influencer. If you're the richest people that I know, I'm talking people that have fuck you
Have you
money.
heard from Jeff Bezos coming out and doing a mindset thing? Because he doesn't need to.
The richest people I know and have in my life do not talk on social media.
No.
They do not talk.
No,
They have
exactly.
I know some rich people on social media, but I am talking the wealth of people it's hard for them to fathom. Like, they'll go and they'll spend $1.5 million on a vacation in Africa, right? And spend 16 days there and drop $1 million.
Yeah.
On their hunting tags alone.
Yep.
That's the wealth I'm talking about. That fuck you. They're not posting.
No.
They're not bragging about their self-help clinic they just hosted. No. And I get it. Those dudes are making great money off of it. But like, the true wealth, like, in these people that these guys are all talking they're about, they don't live that life, or they don't. They don't.
Yeah.
And at least in my opinion, man. Like,
well, again, like I said, there's a couple of things, right? Yes, you got some sort of success, and you jumped on the train at the right time, so you're capitalizing. Two things happen from here, right? We're living in a world of influencers right now. It's gonna die. Like, it's on the uptrend, but like anything else is gonna get on the uptrend. It's gonna reach a plateau, and then you're gonna see the downtrend, right? Because guess what's not going away? You're still gonna need engineers. You're still gonna need doctors. You're gonna still need firefighters,
plumbers, cops, firefighters.
You're gonna need all of that. And guess what's gonna happen when everyone starts becoming influencers? You're probably gonna see a wage gap turn into the other side, where those guys are getting paid way more, right? And then you will see all the millions of influencers, unless you're able to bring in a real product or service to the market, which can add value.
You're replaced with AI now.
Yeah, you just don't even exist. Like, so you better start investing that money that you're making right now somewhere else, but because you're not going to continue this trend.
And how long does it last?
It's not going to last that long. That's what I'm saying, right? The other part of this is, like, most of these guys are, and it's just absolutely absurd. They're preying on desperate people, which I hate.
I feel that's my biggest problem, and you nailed it, is they're capitalizing on somebody at a very vulnerable moment.
Yes.
That's losing their family or feels that he's not manly enough to have this wife. And so now it's like you're capitalizing on somebody and making them pay you mean to tell me what I just did for the week cost $15,000? I know you got to make money on it, but like, they're taking advantage of guys in very low situations.
Even the guys that are like, we'll help you buy houses and stuff, right? They're just using crowdfunding, right? Yep. That's what they're doing.
Yep.
How much of a big piece of pie they're getting, and how much are you getting as a desperate person
sign
to try
up,
to join?
Sign up. I get it, man. I preach this all the time.
Yeah, it's like, we had the time where we actually called a shitty car salesman, and that was not a respectable term, right? And now everybody on social media is pretty much a lot of people are shitty car salesmen, and they're taking pride in that. Hey, look at my marketing. Good on you for figuring out marketing, but there's also moral ground for, like,
100%.
Especially if you're somebody who's going to teach, like, how to be a good human, and then you're out there preying on desperate people. Where's your morals?
Yeah, there's an influencer right now that's going through a divorce. It's all on social.
Yeah.
And this guy is just last month is giving these couple retreats and speeches with him and his wife, and now they're getting divorced. It's like, bro, you've been with her for 3 years and you're giving marital advice, and this is your third marriage. That's what people don't understand. Like, look into these dudes. You're paying this guy money that's gone through multiple divorces.
Right.
And then you see his wife on stage, and she looks like a zombie. You can just read clear as day that they're not happy together. And then sure as shit, now it comes out, and he's still posting stuff like, bro, like, you're losing you're losing everything that you have bragged to build this
Yeah.
empire for is crumbling around you, but you can't walk away
You're
from
gonna-
being the influencer.
Yeah.
That's what blows my mind. And
that's-
people are still defending this guy.
Yeah,
They
that-
still defend him. And I'm like, what is there to
Well,
defend?
because it's a cult mentality, right?
really
Once
is.
you start following somebody, you're
You have to
like,
defend
I'm
them.
in his cult,
Yeah.
and I will listen to everything he says. Like, the other side of it is like all these other guys. They're like, oh, look at the country where this is going. Like, and don't get me wrong, I agree with a lot of what they're saying, but all I hear is you sit there and complain. Let's figure out how we can solve the problem. Like, you're trying to preach to the crowd to do something different. Like, what are you doing different today, right? And I'll be honest, like, I don't have a solution to a lot of problems in the country, but like, I want to get to, if I was starting to make some money, like, I will try to figure out, hey, how do we use this money to actually have an impact somewhere, right? That's what I would be doing. I wouldn't just be out there like yelling and screaming at people,
Yeah.
and just saying like, oh, hey, cops should do better. It's like, brother, why don't you become a cop and show us how better is done?
Well, I mean, I started a whole law enforcement program for our
Yeah.
organization because people wanted to bitch about it. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, fuck, okay, we can't bitch about it. Let's get them the training.
Exactly.
Get them the training. Here's a solution.
Yes.
If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Right.
So it was like, okay, cool, here we go. And
Yeah,
then
like-
help as much as we can.
Exactly. Like, here was, I don't remember his guy, but he was talking about like, I want you all to stop buying from Amazon. And I'm like, I could see where you're coming from, man, but here's the thing. Like, people's convenience matter. Like, if I don't have to leave the house to get something to my, like, I am going to make that happen. You got a problem with Amazon? Guess what? Let's build another Amazon then. That's going to do things differently than Amazon that you think Amazon isn't doing, right? Because they also have a lot of small businesses that are selling their stuff on Amazon, right?
A lot.
And then if you're going to block one corporation for some reason, then why are you on Instagram selling your product? Because they're also a corporation.
On
that
your
are not-
Apple phone.
Yeah, on your Apple phone. So it's like, when you do it, it's okay, but you want to be controversial, so you're going to come out and just spit junk out there and like ask people to change. But like, what
We
do
live in the world of clickbait now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like,
it's
come on, man.
unfortunate.
Like, what are we talking about here? Like, let's just have some common sense, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see you going for like election. Let's just figure out a way to get
Yep.
there, right?
Yep.
And it's a corrupt system, right? It's like, I don't know how we sit here in our country and we call some other country corrupt and bureaucrat when our own government is like that.
Dude, yeah, that's been going on forever. But
Yeah.
well, dude, I've had a great conversation with you. I'm glad I got to sit down and get to know you.
Yeah.
If there's any advice for any vets that are getting out or team guys that are going to be feeling what you're going through, you're still fresh, so it's going to be a while. I still feel that you're in the early stages of getting out. Is there any advice that you would give them for anybody listening?
Yeah, the biggest thing is like, don't put yourself in the hole, because I did that to myself.
And the
There's-
hole is in what?
Just reach out to people,
Okay.
take action. The worst thing you could do is make your own situation worse by shutting down yourself to everyone else, right? So it's up to you to go out and reach out to other people. And if your buddy just got out, you reach out to them, that's also on you as well. And then if you're listening to this and you don't have anyone to talk to, DM me on Organized Chaos Athlete on Instagram, and I'll give you my phone number. You can talk to me anytime, man. Like, I'm never going to do this as a nonprofit. Like, I have my own issue with some of the nonprofits, but
Oh, dude, I have one, and trust me,
It's-
there's a lot that goes on.
because like, you spend a lot of money in like operating expense. You have to, otherwise how else
You
are you
don't,
gonna-
though.
Yeah,
Done it for a decade, man. We run
that's
it out
good
of our
then.
house.
That okay.
I've never
that's
had a
great.
corporate office.
So that's how I would do it.
It's
I would
doable.
rather
It's
just-
very tough, though.
That's why I'm like, I don't want to open another nonprofit and try to like spend money in operating expense. I would rather give to somebody that's already, and that was kind of the goal with the Organized Chaos, right? If it ever makes decent amount of money, I want to have a good chunk of that going towards like
For sure.
Green Bay Foundation, and the second one is figure out who's doing work for like E1s to E4
Yep.
or E5 even, in the military, and like push money that way.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know how else we could do. If money comes out of there, what else am I gonna do? Paying taxes so they can spend it
Right.
correctly.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's the biggest advice is like, hey, reach out and then know you will get over the hill, right? You have all the talent you need to like do anything you want in this world. So don't let those couple of months or even a year of like a rough time like phase you, because that's this because you've already done in your training. you can outlast the time. Just don't let the time outlast you. The time will go away. Bad time will go away, and things will get better.
I like that.
You know, so all you got to do is just outlast that time. So
I feel like it's hard for
it's
a lot of guys because they feel it'll never end. But I mean, eventually,
it
everything.
will end. Just think about, look back to your training, look back to your selection assessment and selection courses, right? What happened there? You were doing a 30-mile ruck. You thought it will never end. It eventually ended, and then you made
You're
it.
such a great example for this too. I mean, because you've gone through so many hurdles and you just never stopped. You never let time beat you, and you got through it.
It's the
Dude,
time.
you've
and
accomplished so much, man. It's pretty good for you, dude.
I think it's the biggest thing is the time, and I'm like, I don't want to let someone else dictate what I do in my life.
Yeah.
It will just never happen. So, like right now, I don't know if we talked about this. Like I'm in the pilot program, like learning how to fly airplanes.
Yeah, you were this morning. That's why
But it's like a good thing to like say that right now, because I was living in a house outside of Nashville in a neighborhood that was like pretty spread out, so I really didn't have any contact with anyone once I like got out, and then my team was obviously doing training and gone for things like, so if I don't go to the gym, like I don't even speak a single word out of my mouth unless I'm like talking to my dog.
Really?
So I needed a change.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. A lot of people are afraid of change. Like when you know you need a change, just make that happen, and you will be able to figure things out later on. But at that moment, if you need a change whatever that is that's bothering you, because there's something that's causing it. Change that. So.
And it's scary, and when you know it's scary, and when it's
scary.
uncomfortable, you know it's time.
Dude, I left my house, packed everything up, put it in a U-Haul, got my dog, and I moved to Boise because
What made you move here?
So I wanted to like, hey, what did I always want to do for fun? I'm like, I want to learn how to fly airplanes. I don't want to do it professionally. I'm like, all right, let's use the VA money to go do that. But because I have MBA, so like I don't need another degree. Plus, I don't like degrees anyways, you know.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, but the only way GI Bill will pay for it if it's a degree program, which is I think a scam anyways. But I'm like, sure, it just gives me something to do, so I can keep my mind at ease. It brings me to a new place.
Yeah.
You know, I got an apartment downtown, so like I'm around more people, and I can just fix a lot of that myself. You know, instead of sitting there in my own lonesome and letting this whole thing build up on me. You know, and has it been easy? Not really, but who cares? You know, again, it will pass and things will get better. Until then, it gives me something to do. You know.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, we got some chatting to do after this. I got some
Yeah.
ideas that I want to run by you,
Okay.
and I got some people you need to meet. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
well, man, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. It was an incredible story, from India to Green Beret to trying to help the community now. I mean, it's pretty fascinating, and I want to thank you for everything, and I want to thank you for the pride that you have in this country, and
We all should, you know.
Facts. So it means a lot sitting here watching you, and I can see the passion and the care that you have for everything that you've done and your boys. And I know it's probably pretty hard, still pretty fresh, looking back on them, and having to walk away from the units. And I know what you've been through, man. Like I've helped a lot, and I've been through some of those shit times as well. So I'm here for you. I know there's a lot of people out there that can relate to you, and they're going to be able to relate to this episode, and hopefully they reach out. We'll get everything posted up for them to be able to use you as an outlet. You're still pretty fresh into the civilian world, and there's a lot of changes and a lot of things that you still got to figure out.
Right.
And that's part of the adventure. And then once you get that mindset, and like, okay, these are the hurdles. And, I'm not just going to get a job because I'm a veteran and I have that title that I feel like I should. So those are all the learning and all the steps along the process of starting a new life and a new chapter. So I'm really excited, and I cannot wait to see where we can take things and how you can help the community. So.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And thanks for giving me the invite to come out here and talk to you. It's been a great conversation, and just hearing about your background, it's been awesome, man.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Thank you again. We'll get everything up for anybody to be able to reach out and contact you, and then I definitely got some people you need to meet here in town.
Yeah, man. Perfect.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you.
Thank you.